Hi, friends. I'm highly honored to welcome you all to this exciting and unique platform, which is Future of Work Convention 2021. The Future of Work Convention 2021 provides a unique opportunity to discuss and gain new perspective on how technology is driving the hybrid workplace while enhancing employee collaboration, productivity, and satisfaction. If there is one thing we can all agree on, it's that the world of work is changing very quickly. In this newly rapidly changing world, late adopter is the same thing as out of the business. Companies no longer have the luxury of waiting to see what happened next. As the pandemic reset major work trend, HR leaders need to rethink workforce and employee planning management, performance, and experience strategies. Widespread remote working has been quickly adopted as the norm by the organization. As a recent research from Capgemini covering 500 organizations and 5,000 employees across the globe, three-fourths of the organization expect that 30% or more of their employees to be working remotely, and over a quarter expect that 70% of their staff to be working remotely. Organizations expect remote model to work well in the functions such as IT, finance, and accounting. Technology companies are far more aggressive in allowing permanent remote work to its employee. Twitter, for example, was the first company to allow its employee to work from home permanently. Similarly, Microsoft also allowed its employee to work from home freely for less than 50% of their working weeks or move to a permanent remote work upon the approvals from the manager. Executives believe that the employees across function will work from home location for 2.4 days per week, an average in the post-pandemic new normal. This is close to 70% rise from 1.4 days before the pandemic. Moreover, the organization are reporting productivity gains due to the remote working and expect them to be sustained post-pandemic. A recent organizational survey across 10 sectors and 9 countries indicate that 63% of the organization have reported productivity gains in Q3 of 2020. Due to remote working in India, 65% organizations reported productivity gain in Q3 2020 as compared to 28% which reported decline in productivity. In terms of the magnitude, the average productivity has gained ranging from 11 to 22%. Employee reduced commute time and flexible work schedule as the key reason why the productivity has increased. For employees who reported a productivity decline, the main reason is feeling more distracted at home than at work. Other predominantly reasons include difficulty in remote collaboration with coworkers and connecting virtually with clients and customers. From the functional standpoint, IT leads the way with 68% organization reporting gains in the productivity, followed by customer service, which is 60%, and sales and marketing, which is 59%. Digitization and the use of technology such as AI have helped organizations deliver improved productivity in these functions. In terms of the magnitude, IT shows the highest weight average of productivity gain of 14% to 31%, followed by the customer service, which is ranging between 12% to 27%. Moreover, nearly 70% of the organization believe that the productivity gain of remote working are sustainable beyond the pandemic. Based on an approximate calculation of productivity level, companies project an overall productivity rise of 17% in the next 2 to 3 years. Further, ever since the lockdown measures were put in place, organizations have looking at their real estate infrastructure and reinvesting ownership and leasing strategies, with many realizing that the productivity can be maintained in the long run through remote working. Cutting down on office space cost is being targeted. In the recent survey, 88% of the organization agree that they have realized that the real estate cost saving with the remote working in the last 3 to 4 months, and 92% further expect that the saving in the next 2 to 3 years. Across sectors, organizations in insurance are particularly optimistic, with 97% projecting saving in the next 2 to 3 years. When it comes to magnitude, the public sector, insurance, and retail business project the highest average weight cost saving in the real estate, which range from 28% to 48%. In addition to the rise of the remote working, 71% of the organizations are expecting employees to permanently relocate outside the big cities, although almost half of them anticipate the extent of reallocation to be only less than 10% of their workforce. Executives are about office space consolidation. Around 42% agree that the pandemic has accelerated their office consolidation plan, whereas 48% of the executives see that their office space need reducing by at least 10%, while 41% of the executives also see that increasing by the same percentage. However, that the executives are clear about is that the office real estate will undergo significant change in the post-pandemic era. 42% of the organization mentioned hub and spoke office to support a proximity to off workforce customer as the priority. 70% of the organizations mention more flexible workspace as the priority. 68% of the organization mentioned large office footprint in smaller, which is tier 2 cities or town as the priority. While home offices and co-working spaces are going to increase in prominence, we don't see the traditional office space disappearing anytime soon. For the post-pandemic scenario, the office real estate may be restructured, scaled down, or take its form in a co-working space so that the flexible workers can fulfill the craving of being alongside with other people without being tied to a specific desk or a location. In fact, 71% of employees expect change of layouts of offices to ensure the social distancing, and 69 prefer low touch or contactless offices experience. Moreover, 67% of the employees prefer long-term changes like restructuring office space into collaboration places in the office. Interestingly, due to travel restrictions, 93% of the companies have saved on business travel and allowances in Q3 of 2020. This was most widespread in India, which was 99%. Moreover, 92% of the organization overall project saving over the next 2 to 3 years as well. The research studies project that the overall cost saving from reduced business travel would vary 26% to 45% in the next 2 to 3 years. In fact, the travel will never go back to the way it was during the pre-COVID era. Most of the experts think that the business travel will not recover for some time as people can conduct business online. Indeed, the above figures are quite impressive. However, the question is whether the organization effectively managed the shift to remote work. While on-premises working allow people to separate work from office and switch off from the work, many remote employees feel that the boundaries between the personal and work life are blurring. A recent employee research finds that the remote employee burnout is growing. 55% of the employees feel that the burnout due to the long working hours in the remote environment. Age-wise, the younger generation need more support to deal with the uncertainty and stress. 91% of the employees aged between 31 to 40 years says that they feel burnout due to the long working hours in remote work. Clearly, if the organization fail to support these next generations of leaders, they will not be able to retain them. By gender, burnout is an issue for 56% of the male respondent and 52% of the female. In turn, raise the question about whether the productivity gain can be sustained. Organization need to look closely at employee stress management, from making well-being a part of the organization culture to even using technologies such as AI to manage employee burnout. Moreover, employees feel significant apprehension about the long-term remote work, which impact their engagement, satisfaction, and productivity. For example, 56% of the employee fear that the stress and the demand for being always on, whereas 54% fear that the remote work will hamper their career growth in the organization, and an equal percentage of employees fear that the remote work will shrink their network both inside and outside the organization. A feeling of disconnection is also a significant issue. In India, 62% of the employees feel disconnected from their organization due to remote working as compared to 56% globally. Of the employees who feel disconnected, 41% fall in 31 to 40 age bracket. Moreover, 58% of the employees feel remote working hinders tasks that require internal and external collaboration. In addition, a recent Capgemini research on data-powered enterprise find that only 37% of the company's users get access to data at a speed at which they need to make decisions. Moreover, 59% says that the organization data access policy result in them spending more time on seeking the approvals than actually doing the analysis. In the remote setup, the smooth exchange of data and information will be possible. Although 78% of the organization says that they are focusing on developing a culture that provide more autonomy of employees and are training their middle managers on the same philosophy. 48% of the employees feels that they are being micromanaged in the remote setup. Moreover, 59% of the employees feel that they are being surveilled by the remote working and productivity measurement tool deployed by the organization. The issue is very pronounced in India. A recent survey that focused on the middle managers found that the significant portion had issued in trusting remote workers. The survey also found that the 38% of the middle managers developed and believed that the remote workers usually perform worse than those who work in the offices. Interestingly, of the employees who feel that they are being micromanaged, 66% also feel that out in the remote setup. This is a wake-up call for the organization about designing a future way of working, where the employees feel valued and trusted and have the work-life balance needed to sustain productivity gains. Hence, the fully remote model that we have seen in the recent month have delivered a mixed result. While it has brought a tangible advantages from a better work-life balance for certain group of the employees to productivity gains for some organization, we have also found that it has limitation. This point to a future built on a hybrid model which strikes a balance between the work from home and the office model, which aim to differentiate the company and build its employee proposition. This will mean that the organization will need to find the right operational model for hybrid approach. This is not the same as imposing a virtual layer over the existing organization. Organization need to realize that this new hybrid way is not a easy or a case of necessity repeatedly, but they used to do in the physical workspace sense. Companies that thrive in this environment will be those that will see an opportunity to work, lead, and organize differently. It may impact the way leaders think and lead, the way the work is conducted, and existing process and team structures. Before the leaders settle on their operating models, they need to rest and reiterate to determine the right fit for various functions. The right structure should be strike the balance between the empowerment and the control, centralization and delegation, and the number of desired level in the organizations. The leaders can use the opportunity to question existing structure, rethink the effectiveness of operation model, and break down the organization silos and barriers between them. According to Capgemini survey, 70% of the organizations said that the current COVID crisis will lead them to hire more fluid workforce in the future, such as freelancers or independent workers. Nearly 73% of the executives says that they have started to hire more locations in different time zones. Further, a robust digital infrastructure is the key to rapidly shifting to a remote working model and maintaining business continuity. IT teams need to pivot quickly towards adopting a digital infrastructure that offers a resilience, agility, and scalability at its core. Organizations need to not only invest in the best possible data management and analytics tool, but also make targeted investment in their employees and their expertise in using these tools. The World Economic Forum Future of Work Job Report of 2020 says that 84% of the companies have accelerated the digitization of work processes, providing employees with adequate tools, technology, and robust data infrastructure to key to adapting to a hybrid operating model. Every organization must make a provision of 25% of its workforce to work from the office after lockdown and scale this to 75% till 2023. This will reduce the urban population load. The companies will be able to get good resource who sacrifice their career due to the location and related issue. This will improve the per capita income and the employment index of the rural and the semi-urban and bring balanced growth across the nation. Indeed, Future of the Work Convention 2021 is committed to delivering the key insight into the new ways of working, providing a platform to discuss and debate the challenges and the solution underpinned by the transformative impact of technology. With this, I welcome you all again to this interesting platform. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charulata Kumar. It's unfortunate that today I'm not able to say that it's fantastic to be here. as I would have much rather done this in person. But I would definitely say that it's important for us to be here, as there has never been a more critical time for us to all come together and find solutions and new paths to what life is testing us on. And for that, I'm grateful to CXOTV and Techplus Media Future of Work Convention, a fantastic platform. This is not just about defining basis the current scenario, but dichotomous as it may seem, it is also about preparing in full awareness of the unpredictability that lies before us. Let's look at some events that shook the world and changed it forever at once. Demonetization pushed us to a more vibrant digital economy, democratizing its reach and putting power in every palm, right? There we go. Tectonic shifts like these bring out the resilience in us as humans to adapt and seek new ingenious ways. Did we even think that all of India would be effortlessly using payment apps and throwing words like B2B, QR code, UPI, etc.? We turned the scary into a sacred. And 2020 was another year of shake and shape. It was preceded by a string of decapitating events like the rise in Delhi AQI levels, Mumbai deaths in train accidents, the low parade stampede a couple of years back, road deaths in cities, and so much more. But perhaps the magnitude of 2020 and intensity, the depths of which are yet to be fully ascertained. We all know that, but could we help? Our systems were designed towards a set job routine, and office goers would blindly have to follow them. And our infrastructure catered to a social and cultural way of living. Proximity, coffee breaks, boardrooms, meeting huddles, games rooms, cafeterias, and all of that. Comes 2020 with this unheard of pandemic called COVID-19. Economy slowed down, people learned to work from home, new realities started to dawn on the work economy, new terms like work from home and work from anywhere started being discussed. Firstly, changes in work patterns and working conditions were thrust upon us by the sudden irreparable ordeal. For many of us, it seemed amazing at first to be with families so often and almost always, right? Until the changes of a privacy-less environment and one where workload sharing at home became the new way of life. It's hard to say who got affected more, the bread earner of the household who found themselves to be less productive and overburdened with housework, or the homemakers who found themselves working double shifts and filling in for all chores. And let's not forget the children of the family, who were perhaps struggling within themselves with all of the new norms of school from home, studying from home, and no play, and having the droning parents on their heads all the time. Scary thought. This needed families to come together and find their balance and adjustment, be more understanding of providing space within the no space, allowing for family time together and bonding as well. The work culture has also evolved to a more informal one, as virtual connects had their lighter moments with kids asking the weirdest questions to cats typing on the keyboards in the middle of strategic discussions. We've all gone through that, right? I'm sure you have too. Here are a few tips I want to share that has helped me and my families, I know. Work from home should be balanced with home life, the work life, and the personal life. As a family, sit down and find time to spend with each other. Don't make your days a 24/7 work from home. Set load shares for chores at home. Your work from home does not mean that family around you is meant to hover around you and feed you and serve you. Be watchful of that. Ensure that you continue the work from office approach of respecting people's geographical hours and out of office requests. Think before shooting out mails. It has been seen that people are resorting to 30 to 40% more mails than required since work from home started. Remember, what goes round comes round. If you shoot unnecessary mails, that's the junk you will get back as a reply to. Let's look at another aspect. The need for robust working solutions for a hybrid workforce. A mix of employees working from home and from office. And then there is the situation of working from anywhere. This threw up its own challenges. Tech infrastructure challenges. Most homes didn't have the required bandwidth or office setup at home. Privacy was an issue. Client data protection is critical to maintain. No compromises there. But I guess, over time, now most of these issues are somewhat solved, mostly solved. Companies stood by employees to help get them bandwidth and required infrastructure, and also helping them cope with flexibilities needed for better work-life balance. I know of friends who've shifted to a villa by the beach in Goa or Ranikhet Hills and are working from there for the last few months. Telecom connectivity has made that possible. Most of them seem happy with this new reality. Its sustainability needs to be closely watched. And let's look at a third aspect that we must look at: creating an inclusive and diverse workforce and culture. Whether the new work conditions exist or not, this should be top strategic priority. The inclusion and diversity roadmap needs redefining and redesigning. We need to use the widest possible lens to view inclusion and diversity, going beyond gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, age, religion, abilities, gender expression, identities. We need to set our people up for success by providing an empowering environment, one that trusts employees, respects individuals, and offers freedom to be creative and to learn and work flexibly. Whether it's enabling you to bring your authentic self to work, providing an inclusive environment, a safe environment, or equal work and learning opportunities, we need to totally change the outlook of the relationship organizations have with employees. And we've seen very positive results of such a culture of high mutual trust and respect, especially at a time like this. The independence given to the teams is resulting in higher productivity, is resulting in almost negligible errors, because every single person has become more in ownership of their own roles, because no one is mistrusting them. No one is hovering around them. They've been told this is their responsibility, and they've taken it up wholeheartedly. I know of several stories of people who believe that they don't need to be monitored, and they have produced error-free work. In most organizations, the gender mix itself is appalling, right? And women drop out typically at the mid-levels. The blended mix of work from home and work from office will provide better options for women as they take multi-responsibility with equal commitment. Inclusive leadership training becomes important to ensure elimination of bias, to empowering our women employees to acquire new skills in technology, leadership, management, and more. Career and professional development for women must be at the forefront. We must bring about this change, not because work from home now enables it, but because it is the right thing to do. And to bring the best minds together to make equal opportunities a reality and to bring diversity of thinking. Okay, so let's reflect a little bit now on culture and team building. Some new dimensions need to be thought through here as well. If this situation continues, how do we continue strong team bonding? How do we create a salubrious environment rooted in the strong culture of the organization? And how do we make it come alive? And how do we keep the culture vibrant and all pervasive? So many things to think about. I guess all this will evolve over time. The best way to be prepared for this new world before us is to become agile and adapt at speed. And also, it is very important to keep our fingers on the pulse of changing lifestyles. What do people want? What is important to them? How can we keep their safety as top priority? How do we ensure continuity? Maybe the answer lies in the flexibility we build into our systems and processes and keeping with the changing needs of people and businesses. Rigidity will be the bane of future. Many things here are still up in the air, but we have all emerged through this wiser, better, and stronger. While we feel proud and celebrate the shared joy and success, I would urge you to reflect on the year that went by and ensure that you are taking moments to relax, enjoy, connect, and introspect. I would like to share my own ways of making this happen. Recognize your stress and the reasons around those. Sometimes we carry stress without realizing and make it affect the way we go to sleep and the way we wake up. And when this begins to happen, you need to chill. Take time off to unwind. It's important to disconnect from everything and connect with your inner self. It could be a walk without your mobile, painting, penning something, silence, music, or even reading a book. Connect with your loved ones. Notice I said connect and not spend time. Sometimes we think being around our loved ones is enough. It's not. Try to indulge in activities together. We discover and rediscover each other through shared moments of interest. Reach out. Do not hesitate to reach out to your colleagues, family, friends, mentors. Help is just a call away. And look after your health. A 1 hour walk, good and timely diet, and a smile every day is all we need to feel the inner happiness and goodness. And don't forget your mask and wash your hands frequently. And most important, do not let the unpredictable changes daunt you. Embrace everything the future brings. Remember, the power is in your hands. Thank you very much once again for staying with me all the way through this and wishing you all the very, very best. And hoping to meet you all in person soon, very soon. Thank you for having me over at this forum.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's pleasure to be a part of this event and speak to you about future of work and how digital workspaces strategy is going to help organizations make their employees more productive and get connected to technology moving forward. As we all know, work had changed significantly in last 1 year. Ever since pandemic hit us, work moved to remote places, specifically the homes of employees. And as we move towards new normal, we know that work will never be the same, which was about 13 months before. Work is going to be very different. It will get delivered from homes and probably remote places where employees are, which may not be necessarily homes, but cyber cafes and wherever employees want to operate from. At Citrix, we say that work is no more a place you go to. Work is what you do, right? That's really the new definition of work. What has helped us during the pandemic, obviously, is that all organizations could clearly shape up their strategy for remote work and get people connected with technology pretty quickly. And we ourselves were surprised in terms of how fast we could do things and scale technology to really have users connected from remote locations. If you really look at what happened over a period of many years, that 300 years before, the definition of work was all about uh, mostly physical work. People coming into that physical location, working as teams and delivering the work. Think of a trader small shop or farming activities or things of that sort. But now the definition of work has changed. The work has really become, more that people deliver as knowledge workers. As the work definition changed, parallelly, what also happened is that collaboration technology changed. Collaboration technologies became pretty powerful as we saw during the pandemic, as we started using various technologies to collaborate, and be part of the team. At the same time, security systems also were all there. But what happened is that we as stakeholders of the companies who were defining the work could never imagine that work can be delivered remotely for majority of the users. So why is the technology and the systems and processes evolved? For us mentally, the definition of work still remain about coming to office and seeing people next to each other and delivering. But now during the pandemic, we realized that that's not the case, and technology has evolved enough to really have the work delivered from a remote place. So fundamentally, work definition had changed, and as I said before, work is really not the place you go to, but work is what you do. Therefore, we fundamentally feel that moving forward, enabling remote work is going to be one of the most critical transformations that companies would want to go through. And there are three specific aspects of that. One is building remote work strategy, right? Not everyone is going to be possible to be connected remotely and deliver the work. As an example, shop floor user will have to still come to the manufacturing plant and deliver work. But if you look at knowledge workers, somebody like me, I can be working from anywhere, right? And hence, from a remote work strategy perspective, HR and IT will have to really decide which are the users who can work remotely, and which are the users who cannot work remotely. Creating a culture, this is a very, very important piece, because if we have the first and the third thing here, which is building remote work strategy, and rethinking and having technology that helps deliver remote work, but we don't have culturally a company mindset, for employees to thrive when they are working remotely is going to be a problem, right? So company policies in terms of what kind of employees will work remotely, what kind of not, for managers to really get a mindset that people working remotely and delivering the work are still as much productive as against people whom they are able to see 8 hours a day. So these are really the three key pillars of remote work that's becoming very, very important. And the majority of the companies today are looking at remote work very, very extensively. Probably in 2012, one-third of employees or companies really believed in remote work. But as we move towards 2021 and in the next 6-7 years, more than 70% of the teams would actually be working remotely, right? So this is something that all the CXOs in the organization need to think about and spend time into how they're going to get right for their organization. As we know that beyond the bottom line, there are lots of other benefits of remote work, right? 2 trillion is the benefit to the economy because now we're able to tap untapped, potential. Gig employees, right, is going to be a huge phenomenon moving forward. Employees predominantly in India, women who couldn't necessarily turn up to a place for 8 hours called workplace can now be productive remotely and can be part of the workforce. And we know that from a productivity and focus perspective, almost 70% of the remote users feel that they are more productive and there is an increase in productivity while they are acting remotely. 83% of the remote workers say they have a better work-life balance, right? As an example, right now I'm going through some health problems for my family, and I'm able to adjust my work through the day very beautifully, in terms of how I'm able to pace out the work and still deliver my work, and at the same time really take care of the family, nursing few people and things of that sort, which earlier may not have been possible. Because I would be required at my workplace for 8 hours and travel for 2 hours and things of that sort. And last but not the least, from an environment perspective, remote work is really good. We all know that 214 tons of reduced carbon emission annually is just one data point that I am presenting here. So what would it take now to make all of this remote work possible? The first piece is really IT and HR to work together. I will come to the technology piece subsequently, but for IT and HR work together, have the right policies, because if you look at Citrix as an example, our CIS truly believes that the physical, the work at remote locations has its own drawback, and the digital environment will need to beef up and take care of all the negatives of, say, working from home. And I will talk about that and how technology can help there. And same with HR in terms of getting the remote work strategy, culture, and all that I spoke about earlier. Of course, whilst I spoke about all the benefits of remote work and how to enable and things of that sort, we all know that not everything is great about remote work. From an employee perspective, there is a feeling to be always on. There's a feeling about being stressed out, the impact that it can have on health, because you're not very productive you're not very active at home as compared to office, where you will have a quick walk, speak to your co-workers, things of that sort. And hence burnout and things like that are some of the aspects on the slide that I'm calling out are clearly the negatives. Can technology be a solution to some of this? One is to think through, and I will talk about that when I talk about digital workspace as a platform. Just as an example, that at your home you can be pretty distracted accessing multiple applications. You may not have the next co-worker next to you to really ask, how does one apply for leave, right? Or where is this training module, things of that sort. Can technology help there, right? Let me come to the solution now as to how different blocks of technology can help, right? And in the industry, it is called as a digital workspace. And there are really 5 promises that digital workspace needs to give to the users as well as to the CIO organization. First, let me talk about the CIO organization. Being able to deliver all the applications remotely. When the pandemic started and I was talking to some CIOs, they said, yeah, but out of 68 applications, my users are only able to access 40 applications. For the remaining applications, they will have to still come to office. So are you in a position to deliver all applications securely to the users on both managed and unmanaged devices, right? Going forward, BYOD, using their own devices, users, gig workers are the workers who are going to use their laptops probably across 3 different employees that they work for, right? So do have the policy to deliver applications on both managed and unmanaged devices. Easy onboarding and offboarding of employees, right? Because if you have to onboard a user who is coming in remotely and then offboard because again the person is remote, the IT infrastructure should really allow to do that. And as said on another point on the slide is, all of this will have to be delivered from hybrid cloud, right? Because today you are delivering applications from on-premise as well as public cloud. Next important promise that digital workspace we need to make is to the users of allowing access to all applications, all files from any device that they use, right? The constraints of having some files on some devices are not being accessible. I can be on, at my house using iPad or a desktop that I have at home. But if I want capability to log into a remote PC, which is in my office, because there are some files there or some files on OneDrive or Google Drive or things like that, digital workspace should actually allow to do that. Reduce context switching and minimize unnecessary distraction. Another important point on the slide. Today, if you look at power users like me need to access 10 to 12 applications continuously through the day, right? We are switching from a CRM to expense application to a HR application to our portal to so many other applications to Microsoft Exchange, email, so many applications otherwise we access. Instead of forcing users to now go to individual applications, make authentication individually, and force users to now access screens of applications that they are not very conversant with, because one particular application user interface would be very different from the other user interface, right? So can you extract all of this information and present in a nice digital workspace to the user, so that user does not have to go to an expense application or to a procurement application or to HR application separately, but all the tasks meant, as an example, to approve an expense, right, or to apply a leave, to look at sales reports. Can you extract that and present in a beautiful digital workspace, digital cockpit, rather than making users see non-intuitive, user applications per se, is another aspect that digital workspace is supposed to do. And last but not the least, virtual assistant, automated workflows, because the users are working remotely and they may not necessarily have access to co-workers to ask how does this happen, right? So how about me wanting to apply for a leave, and I just say apply leave to a virtual assistant. A virtual assistant in Citrix would figure out, oh, we use Workday as an HR application. Open that, tell me how many leaves I have, still that I can apply, and using voice assistant process, apply for a leave, as an example. Mobility driven, huge important point, right? Because users are going to be mobile. Right now, they are probably working only from home, but as the economy opens up, as movement is allowed, they are going to probably access from mobile devices, and having the same experience on different devices and different operating systems and different technology that they use. As an example, Facebook, whether access is on an Apple device or Windows device, the user experience is really the same. One big important point is really security, right? The traditional, VPN, perimeter security models are really going away. We need to really look at zero trust, because from the earlier days of company managed desktop, user using company managed desktop, accessing application over a company's wide area network and logging into corporate data center of that company is gone. From that model, you are now into a new model where you are using an unmanaged device. The user is using an unmanaged device. He is logging in from any Wi-Fi at home using internet, which is not really controlled by your company, and logging into mostly applications which are in public cloud, right? So those parameters of security will have to change and evolve into the dynamics that I really spoke about. And then having all sorts of analytics for security, all sorts of performance monitoring, right? That before the user anticipates, before the user comes across user performance issues, can analytics software really tell me that, right? Can I have security analytics to really say, oh, this user seems to be at this, there is some abnormal behavior of this user who is at a remote location, things of that sort. So security will continue to be a very, very important aspect. And last but not the least, making networking and security technologies come together, having unique things like personalized WAN, because the users are going to access applications over challenge networks, right? So can you have capabilities to do personalized WAN for users, things of that sort. Delivering applications like we used to deliver in earlier days on VDI, right? On challenge networks and where bandwidth is a challenge, things of that sort. Bringing it all together, Citrix delivers it out of what we call workspace as a platform. We make three promises, experience, choice, and security, right? We take care of user experience. I spoke about microops integration, delivering the same app user experience, really bringing the mobile, application experience into a corporate environment, so to say. Giving choice to the users, the second promise. They can use the technology devices that they want. And last but not the least, delivering it, securely through zero trust and SASE and those sorts of models. So we fundamentally feel that remote work is going to be a great place, great strategy for all of us to adopt, and one should really look at digital workspace as a platform to help deliver that. Thank you so much.
Everyone, I am V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. So I'm the chairman and managing director for BT and BT. I'm also the chairman for Smart Cities Working Group under IET Future Tech Panel India. Today we are going to have very interesting discussion on a topic called digital workspaces of the future. So I have the esteemed panel to join this panel discussion. I'll start with KV Deepu, President, Operations and Customer Experience, Bajaj Alliance. Mansi Thapar, IT Leader, Head Information Security, Jacquard. Biswajit Mahapatra, Partner, Global Delivery Leader, Cloud Migration Factory, IBM. Thank you so much, Deepu, Mansi, Biswajit, for joining this interesting session. Right, let me start this session with a fundamental question like, so before we talk about digital workplace, so what do you think? How do you define digital age workforce? That means how the digital age workforce is different from traditional workforce. Do you observe any changes in the needs, wants of the current age workforce? That means the Gen Zs, Gen Ys, and Gen X. I think baby boomers almost retired. So can you please share your thoughts? Probably start with KV Deepu.
Thank you, VSR. And I think, it's a very timely question. Definitely, we do see a few differences in what we call the digital workforce. One is, especially when we have seen, the COVID-19 scenario come into play. Today, workforce is not just human beings, right? So it goes beyond Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. It also includes machines, right? So we have bots and human beings, firstly contributing in equal measure. So that's, the first dimension to a digital workforce. The second dimension is, that now that it's largely work from home, what's also happened is, we've been able to tap, hitherto untapped, talent pools. You have homemakers, who are available, for, a limited portion of the day, and they are able to come into the workforce. So to that extent, the work pool, has expanded. Thirdly, in terms of, generational differences, what we have seen is that thanks to COVID-19, everybody is trying to go digital because, it turned out to be the only option. So whether it is Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen X, whatever, letter of the alphabet you attribute to that particular segment, all of them, are adopting, a digital way of, working and living. And lastly, what we have also seen, because I said digital workforce comprises machines as well as human beings. Machines are also, increasingly, mimicking human beings. So we are seeing artificial intelligence being blended with human type behavior, to make it that much more comfortable for human beings. So these are four dimensions, that we have seen from a digital workforce perspective.
Excellent. I think the two important things probably we all need to address. One is the generational gap. I think Gen Zs and Gen Y especially, and a huge gap between Gen Zs and Gen X. I'm sure we are all Gen X, right? So the expectations, the attitude, the behavior. And the second important thing, as you rightly mentioned, the digital workforce, which we never experience in our life, working with a robot, working with a chatbot. They are our colleagues, with them like colleagues. So how we work with those digital workforce. So I think very good, interesting points, Deepu. Mansi, any thoughts in our view? What is that digital age workforce means to you?
Yeah, I would, agree with what Deepu and you said, but I would like to add that if you look at my domain, right, which is manufacturing, for us it was like we are not so tech savvy people, where our 70% of the workforce, we are still training on the legacy systems, and how they need to at least do a WebEx call or do any other use Zoom call. So that was digitalization for us. For us it was like telling people how to just do a video conference. So I would say that like what I feel from digital age is that now they really want to be agile. They want everything to be available everywhere. If you look at the new generation which is coming in, even in we are doing some interviews, and in the interviews, that the kids, the earlier when we were young, we used to just want a job, and 9 to 5, and we want to go and work. Now these new kids which are coming in, for them digital is that, okay, what all facilities you are giving me, can I bring my own device? Is BYOD allowed in your network or not? That is a very big thing which they're asking. Can I work from home? Do you have a hybrid kind of a solutions available with you? So this is what a major shift I'm seeing from traditional to the digital workforce which we are talking about. And of course, what Deepu said, the bots and the robots which we have started using in our manufacturing, which was earlier not there. We are a very highly labor intensive you know domain which was there, but now our management has really opened up to this digitalization of how we can
Right.
bring in robots and IoT.
Okay, great. I think you said something like we are also teaching. There is one extreme where some of the industries already started working with machines and intelligent things, and some of the organizations we have to teach them the fundamentals, how to use the video conferencing calls and all. There are two extremes here, but I think there is no choice. I'm sure the COVID-19, like Deepu mentioned, has forced many of the people to build even a partial workplaces which are digital, right? So now with this digital age workforce, okay, what do you think the changes are happening, Deepu, in the workplace? Did you see any major changes in the last 3 years? Of course, in COVID-19. So what do you call as a digital workspace? I mean, or workplace in precisely. Workspace and workplace, whatever, both together. So how do you define that?
Yeah. No, yes, sir. Of course, there have been, quite a few changes, at the workplace as well. One thing which we have seen, and especially as we get into this work from home scenario, is that even as employees are physically and socially distanced, the need for keeping them connected digitally and emotionally, has become even greater. Because when people are working in a remote manner, they need empathy, they need to feel connected. So, so clearly, that the need for communication has arisen. And one thing, we have seen, and at least that's something which we were able to implement very well, is when employees used to be in the office, the nature of engagement used to be employee engagement. In the sense, it would revolve around the employee. Now that people are working from home, the focus has shifted from employees to families. So now it's about family engagement. And we have seen that it's made a significant difference from a workforce point of view. The third thing which we have seen is now there is a lot more empowerment. People have devices. It's today no longer about monitoring activity, but it's about monitoring outcome. Because when people are working from home, you don't have team leaders, you don't have people monitoring you by the minute, right? It's moved to completely outcome based model. How do you deliver based on the outcome? That is the second one. The third is, I think, the need for agility. You see, what COVID-19 did was it forced firms to give a response to employees and customers for an event for which they were absolutely unprepared. And it is not the last event that we are going to see. In our lifetime, we can't say after COVID-19, we are not going to see any other Black Swan event. Future events will arise. And the challenge will be to be prepared for events which are not happening today. Because at that time, your competitor or some firm is ready, then your customers will gravitate there. So how do you be ready for events which you are unprepared for? So I think these are some fundamental shifts we have seen in the last few years.
Yeah, but I think in continuation to our conversation, I have two questions. Working from home for a long time. So I have seen some of the reports. Most of the employees wants to come back to the office, and some people are really getting depressed without seeing that office lively environment where there is a coffee shop gossiping or some networking, some events and all they are missing. That's number one. And number two, as a culture, do you agree? I think a couple of years back, I put one LinkedIn message where 60,000 people responded as viewed, And 150 people basically commented, and 50% blasted me. When I said, usually our Indians need follow-up, guidance, and reviews. Okay, so follow-up, reviews, and guidance. That means we have to really make sure that they are providing the required guidance. But you said that when they are working from home, it's like a self-driving workforce is getting created and all. But I'm little bit perplexed here. As a culture, we need a lot of follow-ups, a lot of guidance, right? A lot of mentoring and all. So how do you take it? These 2 points, can you please share your thoughts, Aman? One is the networking and
Yes.
the social networking they are missing.
Yes.
And second is the self-driving organization accustomed to.
So I think both are extremely good questions, BSR. I think on the first question, there is absolutely no gainsaying the fact that as social animals, right, we have been conditioned for years to be social beings. Work from home exclusively, for years can obviously, make you feel, socially awkward. So I think the future is going to be a balance of, working from home for large periods of time with, physical get-togethers once in a while. Maybe you end up going to office depending on the frequency, once a week, once a month, once a fortnight, once a quarter, where you just want to mingle, and get to know people, let your hair down, have a party. So I think it will not be zero, right? There will be a combination. That's point number one. Point number two, your point is in terms of Indians requiring follow-ups and governance and reviews. Yes, I think we do find these cultural differences across various parts of the globe. There are some parts of the globe where it's you tell them and it gets done, and there are parts where you need to follow up. I think right now India is in a transition phase. Now, what happened during COVID-19 was everybody was forced to work from home, and you see, it was not just restricted to one industry or one zone. It's a global phenomenon today. Everybody is working from home. As a result, what has happened? There have been some good benefits. For example, today meetings, by and large, start and end on time. Like earlier, where you had to wait. So that's clearly, and you're seeing it happening immediately. The other is physically, it's not possible to monitor when people are working from home. Then what happens? Necessity is the mother of invention. And in India, right, there's a jugaad mindset, right? It is even taught in Harvard. Jugaad is finding a solution to a problem. So what people have done, they've come up with measures and incentives by which people get measured on outcomes. So if you're working from home, while I cannot monitor how many calls do you handle, how many units do you process in a day. So it has moved to that. As a result of which, the employee is told that whether you work 8 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, we don't know. We're not monitoring you. But if you don't produce your minimum output, then the incentives will be docked. So that is the way I'm saying, that the situation has forced the change from monitoring to output, driven incentives.
Yeah, then I think this the working model of having a mediocre people might be challenging. So we need to have really the people who can deliver. So I think that trend might happen. Okay, now coming to Mansi, now, yeah. So now we are talking about gig economy, especially when this technology innovation is happening. We are talking about almost 20 technologies today. Last time I just put it on one of the presentation. So just 20 technologies out of the 10 are very active. Almost every enterprise is now probably struggling to acquire all these skills, but it is impossible for one organization to acquire all these skills. So that means more and more organizations are forced to depend on external specialists. And I might be having, if you look at some platforms like Kaggle, where data scientist pool is available, and like that, more and more the freelancers and specialist, external specialist utilization will go up. So in that scenario, then it's not only working from home. The guy might be working from other country. He might work from coffee shop. He might work from a entertainment centers. Okay. Then what is that in the workplace perspective? The infrastructure, the policies needs to be changed, and how the security will be taken care in this to accommodate this gig economy.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing question, and I love this word you used, gig economy. And I'm sure that I went and Googled it. I was not sure about what this means. So yeah, I agree that, and I am a firm believer, VSR, that everything can't be possessed by an organization. You need to leverage, you need to outsource, you need to do things. And now with COVID-19, it is global. Everything has opened up. So basically what you're asking is the BYOD model, right? Now people are coming in with their devices, working from home. Maybe they're using their networks. So what I feel is that BYOD is completely not possible where security is concerned But what you need to take is you need to have people, process, and technology together and work together to get it done. So basically, what we did, I can share our best practice. So basically, you have four options where bring your own device is concerned. That is whether you want to give unlimited access for personal devices, you want access only for non-sensitive systems. You need to segregate that. You want access, but IT controlled over personal devices. Like you have some apps like MDM and EDD, like enterprise device management, which are installed on those BYOD models. Or also you have access or privilege, but you are preventing local storage, like you're using VD solutions or stuff like that. So these are the infrastructure solutions which you can use, like to maintaining security even when a device is being brought in from BYOD. So what we have implemented is, one is the MDM solution. What MDM solution does is that it helps you, wipe out your data from the BYOD device when the person is no longer working for you. So because that there are a lot of data privacy laws which are now coming in, so you need to factor that as well. In fact, in insurance, in banking, there is a lot of the compliances which you need to look at. So MDM is one solution which is which really helps you where security is concerned. The second I would say is enterprise mobility management, which is the EMM solution. That also really helps you where security is concerned, because then you can segregate and have a complete that control over the device. And this is technology. Now if you come to policies, you should have a agreement with the person who's working for you, which is a like a EULA agreement, so that they know that this is what I am ready to do. Like suppose they are, I'll give you an example. Suppose they are just downloading a software which is pirated on your BYOD device, but as your device is getting connected to the network, you can get into compliances from the OEM, so your MDM or your EMM device will quickly flag and tell him that you're installing a software which is not allowed. So please don't do it because you're working for Jaguar or someone. So this is these are some of the security things you can really look at where bring your own device is concerned.
Yeah, I think as you rightly said, I think infrastructure amendments needs to be done, especially to encourage this gig economy. Last time when I was discussing in one of the panels, suppose you take a big company, every month I have to ramp up 100 external specialists throughout the world. Okay, that means the virtual desktops have to be enabled, right? So they could be able to access from anywhere, anytime, using their devices and all. So I think it's very well articulated. So the infrastructure, the policies have to be revisited to successfully embrace this gig economy or external specialist and all. Biswajit, I would like to ask, in continuation of the discussion, what do you think? What changes to be brought in the software applications and technology infrastructure, especially when we are talking about digital workplaces? Could you please share your thoughts on that, Biswajit?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Besar. So let's talk about digital shift fast. What's happening all around us today, right? There are three very important tenets. The first is the entire business model is changing, right? There is reimagination of business happening all around us. The second important tenet is new expertise. People are focused around building restless talent as well as orchestrated ecosystem. And the third one, which probably you are mostly hinting at, which is basically what impact the applications and infrastructure are going through today to make the digital workspace happen. It's all around actionable insights as well as responsive operations. And that's the way the whole world is moving towards today, right? When we are embracing digital workspace and moving towards a cognitive enterprise, of course, the hybrid multi-cloud infrastructure is going to be the key, right? The foundation of entire digital workforce. We need to bring in culture of agile innovation. We need to look at all of the exponential technologies that we talk about, AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, those need to be part of your intelligent workflows today. Then a lot of next-gen applications that you really need to take into account. And when it comes to predictive intelligence and proactive analytics, of course, all of this needs to be fueled by data, right? So that's basically the new ecosystem of new age application and infrastructure in the digital workplace that is leading in. But how it's really getting geared up? Like, let's look at three important layers. The first important layer is your digital foundation. As I talked about shifting to the cloud, right? You need to look at resilient infrastructure. You need to look at pervasive platforms and tools. And in the same time, you have to really move away from your perimeter security to embedded security practices, right? That's going to lay the foundation of your digital workforce. And all those are going to be enabled by several virtual collaboration tools, automation practices, that is going to drive your digital workforce agenda in the coming days. When you talk about cloud, earlier days, people are talking more about inside out transformation. But today, the transformation has actually moved from outside in transformation. How do you really migrate those workloads to cloud? How do you quickly modernize those workloads clouds or build cloud native applications to stay tuned and meet your digital workplace demands, meet your business demands? It's basically the new way of doing things.
I think that, yeah. So sorry to interrupt here. So you're telling that the workloads will be different and they are very much, I think, voluminous when it is a digital workspace and all. That means you need to get into hybrid clouds and all. So that means, do you expect the changes in the existing applications, the software applications? I think if some of the organizations, they might be having for last 40, 50 years, 30 years, whatever. I mean, we moved from mainframe, mini-frame, client server, internet, and now we are in digital. So what do you think, while the infrastructure foundation is set up, what are the changes needs to be brought in the existing software applications? What new applications needs to be built?
Absolutely. So
to support digital workspaces.
Yes. So you talked about the mainframe world, and entire industry has evolved over a period of time, and the degree of disruption has also evolved probably pretty much rapidly in last couple of years, right? And traditionally, we have moved from a cost-focused environment to an innovation-focused environment, right? When I say cost-focused environment, it was probably more lift and shift, like-to-like migration of workloads to cloud, right? What we call as rehosting. But today, it's all about refactoring, replatforming, rewriting, or completely replacing by commercial off-the-shelf packages on a SaaS model, right? So there are new way of doing things, building upon certain foundation services like your DevSecOps practices, site reliability engineering practices, right? Those are the new things that needs to be part of your foundation of building the digital workforce and software systems. And in the same time, you have to look at how, like we talked about AI/ML, right? How could you really embed AI/ML? How could I implement various startups, AIOps kind of situations so that I become more automated, more productivity oriented, and more quality oriented? So we need to look at intelligent workflows. We need to look at exponential technologies. And in the same time, we need to look at next-gen applications. And combination of all of those are going to drive the new age transformation agenda.
Okay. So, but what are the cost implications? I mean, it is very good. A lot of technologies are coming in, and there is always an investment of time and money, and also the leadership bandwidth. So for these digital workspaces, transitioning from this traditional to a semi-digital and then full digital. So what do you think, how the organizations will get geared up in terms of the budget perspective, and also, so what are the factors will drive them to take more interest on this digital workspace?
Okay, I think very interesting question again, right? So let's think about, I call it as a continuous modernization agenda, basically, right? You are not going to do everything big bang, tomorrow everything is available and everything is operational, right? So you need to really lay your lead map based on the strategy, envisioning that you are driving today, right? Create those roadmaps, agree that with your success criteria, and deliver those success criteria, and incrementally you need to build upon that, right? And for when you are doing the strategic envisioning, you have to look at your possible outcomes, probable outcomes, as well as plausible outcomes to meet your cost objectives. Of course, cost is important, but let's be also very clear that you need to spend money to save money, right? So, and many times people probably do not realize that and do not see that. And probably when I talk to many of my CIO friends pre-pandemic, probably the agenda was different. But now I think more and more people have realized that and started embracing that transformation agenda.
So now coming back to Deepu, I think you are more consumer intensive industry, right? I'm sure. Anyhow, the insurance, I think a lot of new trends are coming in, usage-based insurance, with where cars are basically tracking what is the driving pattern and all. But that is a separate part. Now let me come back to when I said consumer intensive, you might be introducing so many innovations. But the employees are there, for example. I'm sure you might be having few thousands of employees throughout India and abroad. So like in customer experience management, there is like a persona, there is a journey map, that each interaction point, now you are designing the experience. It's not just only meeting the transactional needs. You are capturing the emotional needs. When they think positive, when they think negative, all those things, I think most of the organizations are tracking now for customers. A journey map, interaction points. At each interaction point, what is the today's experience, and then how we can emotionally engage the customers. The similar trends do you expect with the employees also? I call it as an employee experience management, where the productivity goes up, the retention will be increased. What technologies can be used? AI, ML, social, mobile. So please share your thoughts there, Deepu.
So yes, sir, I think it's an absolutely valid point, because as they say, happy employees, make happy customers. And today, when you have, technology make leverage for customers across the entire gamut of the activities of the enterprise, then why not, do the same for employees? So for us, we leverage, technology even before employees join. So for example, if you look at, candidates who want to get interviewed, we have a robotic hiring process. So they don't have to travel to the nearest location. And they are sometimes also constrained by the fact that the human interviewer is available only during working hours, let's say from morning to evening. Here they have to basically just, go to the nearest cyber cafe. The robo will speak to them. It can even, observe their lip movements, eye movements, body language, and give an assessment to us. The benefit here for candidates is that, as I said, somebody sitting in a very far away location doesn't have to travel to the nearest location. He can even go at midnight to the cyber cafe. So that's where it starts. So clearly, that's one area where we've automated, the interview hiring process. The second is, when employees, come on board, then we obviously have an app where employees can use an app, for all their queries. So the app is like a buddy. And especially when you're talking about somebody getting onboarded digitally, it becomes a very handy tool, for employees to leverage. Then the third is, we have a homegrown, learning and development program, where the modules are not, prescribed, from scratch, where employees can go and curate, their own programs. So that has been a huge hit with our employees. So they can pick up, areas like such as machine learning, or somebody has, received some feedback on development needs, they can pick it up. So it's a menu-based system. So that's something, digital learning, which has really, helped our employees, ramp it up. And then
Okay.
the other area where we have used tools, like I told you, is also in terms of, keeping our employees connected, even when they are basically, physically distanced. So we've leveraged, for example, when we conducted a master chef on the weekend, we told employees to post, recipes and photographs, in the WhatsApp group. So they did that. We announced winners. So it worked equally, beautifully. That's how, we've leveraged, technology. And then we also have, employees, logging in their mood for the day, and then we can do a sentiment analysis and then get back, with the happiness quotient. And then, we take
So
feedback.
how are
and work on
you
it.
tracking the mood, Deepu? Sorry to interrupt. How are you tracking the mood?
So basically, we ask each employee on his, because the desktop or the laptop is unique. So we basically have a range of,
Okay.
emojis, and the employees go and choose it. So
Oh,
based on that, we are
all
able
right.
to, do that. Yeah. So from interviewing to, keeping employees connected, to an app, to learning to this one. I gave you 5 examples, we've leveraged, technology throughout, to keep employees, happy and motivated.
That's very interesting. Now, my next question to you is like most of the organizations now have a chief marketing officer, and sometimes we are saying that the technology budget is moving from CIO to CMO. So, your CHRO or your CPO, maybe chief people officer or chief HR officer. So, what do you see the trends? I mean, I don't see much of the difference. Customer experience, employee experience, more or they are people, right? Maybe some context might vary. So what is the education level today to the HR in general in terms of embracing these digital technologies? Have they started creating the employee journey maps, identify the interaction points, identified what is the experience today we are offering, so that we can design a new experience with technology? So what is your view there?
So I think the adoption of technology for us, be it employees or be it customers, as I mentioned to you, is already very high. Because as I mentioned to you, we are a digitally savvy organization. We are ranked number 8 amongst the global top 100 digital insurers. And when COVID-19
Right.
came in and made digital not just a complete way of working, but a complete way of living, I think we just took it up another notch. So
Right.
if you look at our learning, we have used gamification. So that's clearly one area where we leverage technology. I just spoke to you about the entire interview hiring process, where we've leveraged robotics, to ensure that the entire process is automated. Similarly, when it comes to employee understanding, we've leveraged AI ML to understand employee needs, training needs, chart out employee specific programs. For example, what are the skills that people have? How do we have employee centric programs? So clearly, I think the adoption has been very high. And if you see across firms today, whether it is HR, whether it is IT, whether it is marketing, whether it is finance, if you look at various functions today, it's like a transfer pricing model, right? You pick the technology you want, speak to us, and then we get it delivered for you, and that's the way it works. So whether it is working with startups, whether it is developing it in house, I think today the digital quotient across the entire organization has been significantly high.
Right. Okay. So you have a CAO organization where you closely work with, or how that this is the most important challenge today. Most of the companies says that our CAOs are not able to cope up with our. I'm talking about general. I'm not talking about Bajaj Allianz or something like that. So what do you see this shift? Are the CAOs gearing up and then trying to provide value to customers? You are taking care of customer experience and operations. So I'm sure a lot of, I think, innovations you brought in, but without the technological support and without the response, the agility and resilience, you can't really do your job, right? So how the CAO organizations are responding in general in India?
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Today, without technology or digitization, you can't make a difference. I think there are three factors here. I think one is, of course, the individual person. Second, I think is the industry, sorry, the firm, and third, I think is the industry, because you will see there are some industries which are more advanced than others, and then within industries you will find that there are some firms which are more savvy than the others. What I have seen here, BSR, is how you build your culture, because culture is strategy for breakfast. If you're able to build a digitally savvy culture which is across the entire organization, then you find that the tone at the top finds an echo at the bottom, and then when everybody is bought into that, then adoption is easy, as well as scaling up also becomes easy.
Biswajit, again, coming back to you. So I have another question, interesting question. So we talked about the digital workspaces and all. What do you think in terms of the employee mindset, attitude and behavior? Because when in the digital workspace, it is entirely new. That means they might work remotely. There are some real-time contextual communications, collaborations. A lot of technological interventions will be there. Manual interventions will be minimized with all these things. And they are now currently working remotely also, right? So what do you think in the behavioral and attitudinal change, and how the leadership team has to gear up to manage the change happening in the employees' mindset in the digital workspaces?
Very interesting question. And in fact, I'm living by that. So it makes me happy, right? So the first thing is, what is the change employees are going through basically, right? I look at it in two dimensions. The first dimension is that we all know, right? Suddenly the formal, social, and office environment has kind of changed to a very informal, I call it as a familial environment, right? That's a big change.
Yeah.
So from your office, suddenly your home becoming office, and you have to manage a lot of home dynamics along with your office work, right? So you are on a call, maybe your kid is standing behind you and asking you something, right? So you have to set all those stops and set the expectations rightly for all the stakeholders to make that happen and to make that understandable. That's a stress level a lot of employees are going through today, right? Considering the family conditions, the nucleus way we live today, right? So all those things, socio-economic, socio-psychological dimension, right? The other transition that has really happening is basically how you are actually moving from one of your official infrastructure, official way of doing things. When you are overnight becoming completely online, it comes with all of those relevant stresses, right? So you talked about virtual collaboration, right? How can I use Mural? How can I use Slack? How can I communicate? Many of us getting into Zoom calls or WebEx calls today, right? And at times you are not sure whether the other person is reciprocating on the call or not. So all those dynamics that comes into picture, right?
The
So
screen
now
time goes up. I guess the screen time is too much, right? I mean, it's not like the screen time is probably 5 times more than what you have been. Physical meetings versus virtual, you have to continuously see the video. So
absolutely.
that also really make a lot of difference. Yeah,
Absolutely.
please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's another transition basically, right? Suddenly from work-life balance, we are talking about work-life continuum, right? So how do you balance that? And of course, there are opportunities and challenges there as well. And as a leader, you need to really be on the forefront of this to help your employees, to support your employees, not only focused on productivity, cost, and other stuff. It's time now for all the leaders to really focus on the well-being of your people, well-being of your employee, right? So that's point number one. On the second important leadership change that I look at it, let's think about this, right? So idea of top-down leadership is thing of the past today, right? So now the leadership, the decision making is completely democratized, completely decentralized, right? So you have to really work with that in those parameters to drive the well-being of your employees and your teams, basically, right? So practically, if you ask me what I practice for my teams, the first thing is be completely vulnerable, right? Foster culture of collaboration, culture of trust, integrity, and ethics, right? That is going to come in a long way when you are working on a virtual model, be with your teams, be with your clients or your ecosystem partners, right? So that's again another important thing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Then the other parameter is that you being a leader, you being a manager, gone those days that you don't need to learn, right? So it's continuous learning, learning, and relearning for you all the time, basically, right? So you need to really focus on that, right? And of course, agility and collaboration that I talked about. Those are the things you have to practice to become successful.
Thank you, Biswajit. I think it's very nice. So you talk about the learnability of the leaders and the new systems and the skills. And of course, policies needs to be revisited. As you said, somebody is working at the home and remotely they are working on all. What are all the new challenges will come? The HR and the business have to work together to devise the new policies. Very important. And most importantly, I believe the induction process has to be completely re-engineered.
Absolutely. In fact, the leaders now, it's high time really to understand and make changes to their existing hardware processes. What worked yesterday is not going to work today.
Absolutely. So, Mansi, I think Jack were into mostly into the home-based solutions, right? I mean, you provide a lot of solutions and all. So, what do you think if more and more this working from home culture is embraced? Do you see if the home also become a workplace? And when we are doing such type of a webinar, our kid may come in the middle and maybe say, hey, dad, amma, nana, whatever, right? A different, whatever language we use, right? And he's saying, I think Deepu was saying the family engagement is very important. Then I cannot say it out. So I have to probably embrace, right? I mean, okay, all right. And there is an acceptance, for example. That's one. Second is when the workplace and home are same, especially women employees. What are the challenges you think they have to handle? Do you see any difference? The male hero sitting at home working, and then women employees working at home, plus in our culture it is different, right? So can you share your thoughts on that? The work and work.
So basically, yeah, I think that we have come a long way, but still there is a long way to go where women are concerned, especially if they're sitting at home. So as you rightly said, all the kids, even the male members, they feel that now the female is at home, she'll take care of everything. When you are at work, there is a lot of support system around, and when you are at home, the same thing fails a bit. But yes, I would say that we people are changing, because now when they know that this is the new normal, right? We are at home, but at the same time, we need to earn the bread and we need to do our work because we are very passionate about it. So I think it is the same thing, VSR. We need to again sit with them as we did 10 years back when we needed their support. We explained to the family that, see, this is my work area. And, when I'm working, I need your support, that we need to be quiet. We need people not walking in. And I'll get you your breakfast and your lunch, but please let me do my calls first. So that is there.
Okay.
But I would say there is some additional benefit also working from home. See, I come from an organization where there was zero work from home, and they bended the rules for me 4 years back, and I was the only one in the organization who had work from home options. But now when the other females, because our, and I would say the ratio of male versus female is just 20/80 in our organization. So now when the senior management is also working from home, they realize that work can happen. Earlier, in India, the mindset is really changing. It was like, if you're sitting at home, you're not doing anything. So now, as Deepu also rightly said,
Okay.
and you also mentioned, that the culture is changing. India is in a very transition space. So for females as well, the transition is there, but slowly and gradually, people are understanding that how we also need to cope up with our home and work. But yes, still there is a long way to go. You're right.
I think there is a designated workplace at home, and there is some sort of a orientation and training required, not only for the kids, if any of elders are there. Okay, this is the place
Yeah.
and all, and there is some timetable. This is the time where you also inform the organization, this is the time I am not available, and this is the time I am completely available or something. I think this sort of, tweakings needs to be done irrespective of male or female. So working from
Yeah.
home is, I think, a different work environment, which
Yeah.
will further, I think, get accelerated and all. So for both of
Right.
you, another question: when we say digital age workforce and digital workplaces and all, next, let us say a couple of years, there might be so many jobs which will be done by robots, chatbots, virtual assistants, and blockchain smart contracts might probably make a bit of autonomous operations, right? So a lot of technologies probably might reduce the existing workforce and probably bring some new workforce with the new skills. So in this digital age, what do you think the education system in India today, is it ready to embrace that change? Let us say 3 years from now, and any new changes needs to be brought in the education curriculum or the culture or the infrastructure and so on and so forth. I think you could, anyone can take up that question.
Yeah, so I would take that VSR first. That I feel that there are things changing, because now you see a lot of different courses and things coming up in our universities, at least where cybersecurity is concerned, where IT, AI, ML, you see a lot of robotics, different things have been introduced in schools, but there is a long way to go. Like, I'll give you an example. My daughter, she's 13, and during lockdown, she wanted to do something. She said, I want to educate my friends on cybersecurity. I said, that's a very good thought. And she came up with an app, she came up with a website, and she's doing some courses. Even she did it with Barclays. But the moment when we sat with the children, we thought they'll be they'll be knowing a lot of things. But once we came and talked, the children were not aware. They were downloading games left, right, and center. They didn't know what bullying, digital bullying is all about. So I sat with the principal of the school, and I, asked her that, can we do some sessions free of cost where, we can educate children. So she said that they have been taking this up with the CBSE board and a lot of other boards, that they want these kind of curriculums to be put in the children, not only for, for skills, for at least you need to be aware of what's happening around the world. So that
Okay.
is something which really need to work on, where our education system is concerned. And second, I think that more digitalization is required, where courses are available to, as Deepu said, that in their office, they have given courses where people can choose. These kind of courses, digital courses, should be available for students at least in senior wings, like, starting ninth, that some kind of extra things they can build up if they want from the schools.
Sure, sure. So when higher order lower order thinking skills based work is taken over by robots or some AI ML driven algorithms, Deepu, what do you think the education system, do you think in India, are we teaching the higher order thinking skills like analysis, then evaluation, creativity, innovation? So more and more the brain work rather physical work. So what do you think the Indian education system readiness, the new education policy is basically there. So can you share some of the thoughts there?
No, I think VSR, I think Mansi also, made some valid points, when she spoke about it. See, if you look at, the education systems, typically, uh, the need for agility, I think, is very high because, there is typically a lag between, the way the world around us is changing, and the education system, the way it reorients, itself to what is going on. What is, critical is one is as we get into, let's say, digital way of working where you don't have, printed textbooks and, so on and so forth, then of course we can be, much more agile. The other is, areas such as cyber security. Similarly, when we speak about AI and ML, everybody speaks about AI and ML, they become buzzwords. But how do you translate that into, meaningful education for children, right? Can you start applying AI and ML across, various parts of the spectrum, right? That's clearly one. The third is this entire combination of man and machine. How do you combine the science of AI, with the art of, human emotions, to make it human-centric AI. So I think these things clearly need to be brought into the curriculum. And the other is, I think, also the point that you can't teach digitization manually. You have to teach digitization digitally. So are you also using digital tools, right? You can't be like, learning swimming, outside the swimming pool, right? So the mode of teaching, and now, since we have COVID-19 and we have online learning, it can give an impetus. So the method of teaching and the content, if you're agile, then, we can, certainly ramp it up. As of now, there's a huge gap.
Yeah, I think more and more personalization and the pace at which the students learn, it's not like one medicine fits all. As you said, the personalization is possible only through digitalization, especially the gamification technologies are coming in and so on and so forth. I think it's an excellent discussion. So we touched upon so many areas like employee experience, what is the digital workforce, or the digital age workforce, then how the human workforce and digital workforce work together, what are the policies needs to be changed, what infrastructure changes needs to be brought in, and how the security aspects needs to be taken care, gig economy and extended workforce are coming in, how we can work and all, and also the education system, how we need to really change so that they will be ready for these digital workplaces and all. Thank you so much for joining this very interesting session.
With the above premise, let us welcome today's guest, Fenil Shah, Senior Systems Engineer, Citrix India, to guide on digital strategy to address the challenges arising with future of work. Hello Fenil.
Hello, Kalpana.
Thanks for joining us today for this live session.
Thank you for giving this opportunity.
So Fenil, as the COVID-19 pandemic is raging again across the country, the businesses are again strengthening their focus on remote and hybrid approach of work. In this era, what are the changes you see in the requirements of the modern workforce?
Yeah, so there are a couple of changes which we have observed since this pandemic has happened, Kalpana. And just to summarize, right, why I have kept this as in reinventing the future of work, right, or reinventing the employee experience, productivity, security, and choice. So in today's time, what is the actual requirement? So while I was talking to a lot of different organizations in different segments of the industries, the first thing which I found out that there are a lot of different types of users we have, right? The employees, contractors, branch users in banking segment. So first of all, everybody wants any users, right, to access remotely, work from home. The second is accessing from anywhere, any location, right? We should not be restricted on a specific location, right? You should come from this particular specific source IP addresses or the VLAN or the network, right? Like we have a ODC concept, right, in India for a lot of different organizations. Then you must enter this ODC and then access the resources. The third is you can access from any device. Now, obviously, when corporate resources are being accessed from any device, right, we have a bring your own device concept, and then we have a managed devices, unmanaged devices by the organization. So people want access from any device. And lastly, they want to access any application. Previously, we had those thick clients, right? But now we have a web application, we have a software as a service application, we have an application running into containers, right, on microservices, Kubernetes containers. We have applications running on mobile applications. So we have a variety of applications, and certainly those applications accessing the content. So when in this today's time, when these four pillars needs to be joined together and deliver a specific solution, right? What are the things I was just thinking of while I was preparing the content for this particular webinar? While I was thinking of that, what actually gets in the way of enabling any user, any location, you access any application, right, and over any network. So first of all, complexity comes in. Now, when we say complexity, you think from two perspectives, right? The one is from the admin per se. As admin are having the resources into data center, they are side by side managing the public cloud infrastructures. They have a branch offices. They have to have network and security implemented for software as a service and web applications. In the branch offices, when the network breakout happens, they need to look at right at the edge how the traffic is moving on. So as an administrator, the complexity has arisen, and that is the reason they have implemented pinpoint products, right? For networking, they have a few set of products. For security, they have a few set of products to ensure that we enable the remote work, which eventually increases the complexity. And they wanted to finally troubleshoot any issues if it occurs, then it is very tough as the point products are implemented. If we see from the user space, right, user has a different experience when he accesses from different devices of different location. So he would be having a contextual access if he puts his phone on. He would be having a limited access when he goes to the personal computer. When he accesses the office computer, he would be having a different accesses, right? So his workspace is not common, and whenever he wants to access a specific application, he has to think of, right, where I need to context which workspace I got to use, which location I should connect from, and then all those complexities again in the user's mind. With that complexity, what we want to do, right, at reinventing this experience where user connects from any device, any location, we want to simplify how the work gets done. And secondly, how we deliver the backend applications, and how having a hybrid multi-cloud setup, we can ensure that the admin experience is at best. Now, clubbing these two together, right, we want to deliver a frictionless experience for our end user, and then certainly the choices for admin is always there. So Kalpana, just to conclude on your question, right? Right now, why the changes are required? Because the work, the way it is happening is different than it was happening in the past. Now, I would not say this is a new normal. This is a normal. Last year we used to say now we need to set into this new normal, but this is a normal. But certainly these two things which should be there is not there. That is the reason we are talking about how we can reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely. So in current times, enabling hybrid and remote workforce has been the top priority for most of the organizations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. However, employees face poor digital experience while accessing applications and resources across the network. So how do you think organizations can address employee experience and productivity challenges?
Yeah. Now over here, let's first talk about the experience, right? How do we define the experience? So right now, when I'm home and I want to access any resources, if it is available to me as a unified resource, then I would love it, right? Everything at the single place. I don't need to choose different devices. I want my applications, desktops, content from a single console. If that can be delivered, fantastic, right? I'm happy user. And secondly, while accessing those content, right, the application, desktop, and content, while accessing them, my experience should be at best. Now, Citrix, since last 30 years, right, in this particular industry of end user computing, leading with the protocol, right, Citrix high definition experience, if we talk about specific to the virtual apps and desktop segment, that's where we don't, we say no to poor experience, because protocol is our backbone. Now, if you see how we have developed this protocol, in this particular protocol, we have a different virtual channels. Now, these virtual channels can be managed, right? You can enable them, disable them. And the beauty over Citrix is when you access your resources, right, you do not transfer the data outside the data center. By default, it transfers mouse click, keyboard stroke, and screenshot. Now, when that happens, certainly I would be requiring a very minimal bandwidth. And at home, you know how we are connected, right? Sometimes we are connected via hotspot, sometimes we are connected via Wi-Fi. So we use a different network. Now, in that particular case, when I use a minimal bandwidth to access the resources which are there into data center, then certainly I'll be a happy user because of my experience. And that is where you see on this particular screen, right? We have the innovations implemented to handle the jittery network, the packet losses, and the lower bandwidth, the higher latency network. I would like to show you something, right? Left side, you see something called adaptive display. So we have a codecs implemented in which a single screen can understand different codecs at the same time, right? Images, videos, text, all codecs are understood by that particular image. And for that, I was just visiting my virtual desktop, and if you see that on my screen, so this is the desktop which is published into Americas, and I have a different variety of applications, right? This is the rich graphic applications. That's where I am opening the heavyweight applications. You see, I have a high latency, so I may have a poor experience. So we have those indicators available which notify users, right, in this time. Now, this particular application FaceWorks required a NVIDIA heavy-end graphics card that is running onto my data center in America and in India. So you can expect that I have around 300 to 400 millisecond latency. But let this particular content get pop up, right? The particular face comes as in. Now, this is the guy, right? I want to use my touch screen, right? When I use my touch screen and I want to tell that guy, right? So you see he is doing the different expression. He moved his screen left, again left, right? So while I do this, right, I want the best graphics, best experience available to my user. And that is what I'm able to achieve. And that's the reason even my slide says no to poor experience. So that was the first point. And that's the business value, right? Zero data out of data center when the virtual apps and desktop implemented. That's and Citrix HDX is a built-in protocol for customers. Secondly, unified experience. So the moment you come in, you have a single sign-on. You enter your credentials, multi-factor authentication is inbuilt again. Then you see all your types of applications, software as a service, web, mobile application. You see all your desktops available. You see all your files available. So you see, you have a unified experience, right? The way I was talking about, if I have everything at one place. And for that, I have just opened my workspace to you, right, over here, which I use it. So if you see, I have all the applications present from Excel, Outlook, SAS, Salesforce, Workday. I have my desktops present over here, and I have all my files. Now this is coming from different place, right? OneDrive, then network shares I have into data center, Google Drive. It has an integration with everything, and I have all my files and folders available over here. So that's the place where I have everything in a single console, unified experience. With the best protocol in the industries, we would be able to deliver the best experience. So that's the answer. Over to you, Kalpana.
Yeah. So with the increasing number of devices and applications, time required to find out right information is increasing, which impacts the productivity in a hybrid environment. How can we ensure that the employee in the organization can engage to the enterprise applications the same way as consumer applications like Twitter, Facebook, etc.?
Yeah, I think that's the crazy discussion happening in the industry since last 3 to 4 years, right? I'm hearing out what we have done over here, right? So first of all, we need something where enterprise application shows me what I want to see, right? As in Twitter shows me the feed which is relevant to me based on this machine learning artificial intelligence algorithm. So machine is learning what I like. So can we do something for enterprise application? Yes, certainly. We have thought of and we have implemented that. So let me just take you to my workspace. So first, we talked about how we organize the work, having the application desktop content in one place. But the second thing, how we guide users for the work. Now, certainly Twitter is guiding you with the feeds it shows. So the same way we guide you with the enterprise applications and the feed cards we have. So over here under the activity, you see I have a feed cards coming from the different applications. So one is from Broadcast, one is from Salesforce, one is from Citrix Podio, again from Salesforce. So likewise, we have 100+ out-of-box integrations. Now these cards which you see, right, are called as in micro apps. And Citrix has a micro app service available on Citrix Cloud, which has already 100+ application workflows present. So you come here, all your work approval, denial, submit workflows can be automated. Now this is the workspace I have created for return to office, as this is widely used right now for the customers who are using Citrix Workspace. Now here you see I have a one feed card coming that new message from employee has come in. I have one particular user, right, is asking for one contract approval request. Now normally what I do, I go to this particular application, which is Salesforce. I do singles, I do login. If I don't have single sign-on, I log in. And then I go to the specific workflow, right? That, okay, contract, where is the request? I write all the things, and then I click on approve, or I look at all the requests. Now over here, the same thing is automated. The workflows are automated and completely presented over here. Now let's say today I come to the office and open this Salesforce workflow. So my system will understand that what is my behavior every day. Tomorrow I come in, I access Salesforce workflow. Day after tomorrow I come in, I access Salesforce workflow. Now my machine has learned that Fanil is much more interested in looking at the workflows and feed cards presented from Salesforce. Then it will understand by default, and then the feeds related to Salesforce workflows would come first. And that is how this intelligence on the the intelligence on the workspace is applied. And then it is going to have your task very simplified, make you engage, make you productive, right? Let's say COVID-19. So we have a certificate present for the customer. You put all red lights, your fever is less than 98, and all the criteria. Once it is tick marked, you get this particular certificate, you get a QR code. And that's how beautiful it is. And with that, not only looking at those feed cards, right? But at the same time, you will be able to take some actions. Let's say I want to certify myself for COVID-19. So I'm from India, geography, and then I approve all these parameters. And then eventually certificate would be created for me. Likewise, SAP integration, ServiceNow integration. Now, not only SaaS-based application, right? Here we are majorly talking about SaaS-based, but your on-prem applications again can be integrated for this workflow. So that's where your workspace becomes intelligent, and then it simplifies the work for you, make you engaged, make you productive. And then I would love to work with the system, which is very simplified and gives me all accesses, right?
Yeah, that's quite interesting, definitely. So above all, as enterprises move towards hybrid and multi-cloud infrastructure, cloud management has become a challenge due to multiple consoles. So what is your suggestion to address this kind of a challenge?
Okay, so now first of all, in that segment, right, as we were discussing, one, we talk about this frictionless experience, but the second is the choice we want to have. Now, when you have a choice, you want simplicity too, right, to manage that choice. And right side, we see data center, clouds, branch, and all. So from Citrix Cloud, right, or Citrix Workspace, from there, you would be able to manage your hybrid multi-cloud setup. So I was talking to one customer and he said that, Fanil, okay, I have some resources on-prem right now. I have some resources onto Azure, and then I'm planning to have some resources on AWS. Now, currently, I have 3 different sites to manage. I have 3 administration consoles, and the life is become chaos, right? In that case, what we recommend that on Citrix Cloud, you have a single console to manage all these 3 infrastructure. That's where the story of hybrid multi-cloud, right? Having a single console, a best admin experience to access all those resources. So in the choices, right, now we have any devices, we talked about application data, we have come up with something called bring your own identity. Now in bring your own identity, you can have Active Directory, SAML, you have TechX, right? You have Okta, Google, Ping, Duo, whatever the authentication method you like, you can bring those authentication method. So why I mentioned this bring your own identity, because when you have the WAT, SaaS applications into backend, and when you're looking for that single sign-on, right, which I was showing you as a unified experience, you do not want to enter the credential again and again. You don't want to remember that 25 passwords. So in that case, this bring your own identity concept is so relevant that I will be able to log you in for any backend applications with any authentication mechanism, right? The moment you enter into my workspace, you do not need to again remember any other credential, because we support all the identity. So again, the relief for administrator not to worry about those managing the consoles and all, right? The next is about the workload locations, as we just discussed about, right? The Azure and AWS and that kind. So yeah, multiple consoles are no more. Secondly, the users who are going to our admins, I would say, who are going to manage these setups would be having a seamless experience.
Okay, Fenil, many of the businesses have point products implemented for internet and intranet access, which raises issues around scalability and performance.
Yeah.
How can we address these issues in a hybrid or remote environment?
Correct. So let me just let me just take you through the concept right over here. See, till the time we were talking about the virtual apps and desktop, right? We had a thick client into the offices, and we were delivering those thick client applications through virtual apps and desktop. But now the industry has evolved and applications has revamped. From thick client, they are now the web applications. Now, if you go to any organizations, you will see around 90 to 95% applications as a web application. Now, what if I have only web applications into my organization? So I was working with one customer, and he had 3,000 users who are only accessing web applications. They don't need any thick client-based application. So in that particular case, implementing a virtual apps and desktop, having a browser onto it, allocating resources from public cloud or on-prem. So people don't want to do that. So in that case, how can I access my intranet web applications, which is into data center, securely on any device, on any network? That's the first point. The secondly, we need internet access. And what we have observed with the customer, that to access the internet, customers have implemented proxy solutions in their data centers. Now that proxy solution, right, if you see, they have a proxy, malware, DLP, and all different bundle of solutions, right, from different vendors implemented. Now, I have seen a customer where the user is working at home and the internet traffic is completely passing by, backhauling to the data center proxy location, because I need to identify the internet traffic, right? Because we know 50% malwares are from internet these days. So in that particular case, how Citrix can help customers for their intranet and internet web applications, right? So would like to present that to you. I guess can you see my screen, Kalpana, or no?
Yeah, I can see.
You can see?
No, not yet. I can't see.
Okay. Perfect. I'm not sure why. Sorry guys, I'm not used to just I guess you can now.
Yeah, now we can see.
Okay, fantastic. Now we talked about, right, how we can ensure the secure access to the intranet web apps, and the second is internet-based web apps. So first of all, this is how I was talking about, right, that backhauling. So I have a remote workers for the internet traffic. They go to the data center, and sometimes they leverage the cloud-enabled proxies. And the branch users, again, they use the SD-WAN for the internet traffic, right? So majority of the customers, right, who understand the cloud delivered network and security, they do the internet breakout at SD-WAN. But customers, right, who are using the SD-WAN again to pass the internet traffic to the data center, again increases on the latency, right? And on data center, as I talked about, they have a web security, firewall, malware, and DLP solutions implemented for the secure internet access. But what are the challenges I see? The first is the backhauling challenge. When you can directly use this cloud delivered network and security for secure internet access, then why to backhaul traffic to the data center, which increases the latency and inefficient way to do that. The second is some customers have seen that establishing a VPN tunnel, right, for the internet access. So I have a customers who use right Gmail, and for that they have a corporate Gmail. So yeah, first they establish a VPN tunnel, they identify the source IP, and then they have a access via G control to Gmail. In that particular case, certainly that a VPN based access is giving customer a nightmare by having a security, scale, performance related challenges, and all the devices are not compatible with this particular solution. They have iOS devices where they cannot control Gmail access because they do not have this VPN enabled on the iOS devices by the same softwares. The hub and spoke architecture. Now I just want to spend some time over here to discuss that what do I mean by hub and spoke architecture, right? When on internet we know more than 95% traffic is encrypted. Now to look into the traffic, I need to decrypt it. Now I want to decrypt it for secure web gateway, malware, DLP, and I have different vendors into my organization who are doing this stuff. So I decrypt the packet at secure web gateway level, look into the traffic, allow or denied. Then again, I would encrypt and send it to the next node, which is again for malware and DLP. So this hub and spoke architectures is again delaying the packet evaluation process and having a poor end user experience. Then the scaling of this resource, right? Because of this remote work, Kalpana, what we have noticed that when customer users are at home and when this backhauling is happening to the data center, then the crazy revamp has to happen on the bandwidth front and the devices front, because the traffic for the internet now has increased in multi-folds. So again, a scaling process, a really time consuming and complex. And 0 day, right? The threats which we are getting from the network is crazy. And when the 0 day attack happens, then because you do not have intelligence from multiple threat engines, right? As you have on-prem implemented, then you have that particular limitation. So these are the challenges which I see when I mentioned and you talked about, right, the internet-based and intranet-based access. So again, Gartner in 2019-20 timeframes, right, have released some recommendations what to do to resolve all this problem. So what Gartner said that you marry these two, security and network, and eventually the word which becomes as in SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, where we marry the security and network. So your secure web gateway, your CASB, your zero trust network access, your SD-WAN and firewall, when it delivers from the single vendor product, right, or when it delivers as a single vendor by integrated service, then it is called as in SASE. So the people, right, who are hearing the SASE a lot, but this is what the simple definitions what Gartner has put it. Now Citrix is the only vendor, right, when we look at this SASE definition and look at the core and recommended capabilities mentioned by Gartner, this is what the unified approach has come from Citrix. So the first is about secure internet access. When you see in a single solution, Citrix is providing the web gateway, firewall, cloud access security broker, malware, DLP, sandboxing, all the features and functionalities into a single cloud delivered network and security solution. And the beauty is it is again delivered from the nearest location, right, where you are sitting. What do I mean by? Let me just tell you the core differentiators, right? The first, I want you to focus on this higher performance and lower latency, which is single pass architecture. So I decrypt the packet once and then I evaluate for everything. Secondly, we have a global point of presence. So right now, if you're accessing the internet from your endpoint, then you will go to the Mumbai POP. If you're accessing from North India, you will go to the Delhi POP. So we have 100+ point of presence all across the globe, which ensures the secure internet access. So now no worrying about hub and spoke architecture and the latencies, and then the scale, right? You would be having a privacy. The Citrix secure internet access solution is completely built upon that containerization, keeping containerization onto mind, right? We have a separate gateway for the customers. We have a persistent IP addresses for the customer. So if you are connecting to Citrix SIA, you would be having a dedicated source IP, and that source IP is for the specific customer. So with these differentiators, we ensure that the users are going to have a secure internet access. The second, I want to talk on the intranet access, right? How intranet web application access and software as a service application happens. So what we have done, the people will be aware about Citrix Receiver or Citrix Workspace app. Inside that Citrix Workspace app, we have come up with the embedded browser. So right now, the people who are using the virtualization, right? But if you have that particular browser, that browser has a Chromium-based embedded browser by Citrix. Now that particular browser gives an opportunity to us to connect to your intranet web apps with all the security in mind. Now, when I say all the security in mind, first of all, we don't have a VPN connectivity to the data center. So it has a VPN-less access. Secondly, for all your intranet web apps, again, if you're accessing your software as a service and other applications, you are going to have a single sign-on. The third, what you can access into intranet is completely controlled as web filtering is implemented. All the security controls are in place. For an example, that Kalpana, for you, 5 applications are accessible. For me, 10 applications are accessible. Secondly, you cannot take the screenshots, right? You cannot grab the screen. You cannot have the malware keyloggers to understand, right, what you are typing down. So we have those protections: watermarking, copy paste, download, printing, navigation, all those restrictions are in place. So for data governance, and we have ensured that whatever the types of application you use, the data exfiltration cannot happen. And whenever we see something risky, right, there is an option for a customer to isolate a browser, sandbox a browser. So I run a browser into my cloud environment, and then certainly if user logs off, I will delete that particular browser. So if you do anything, so while customers are using these days, right, to access the internet, my isolated browser, so that any malware comes as in, still that browser is isolated, you can delete it and the access is given. So the concept of zero trust and SASE has been implemented to ensure that you have a best access for the intranet and internet apps with all the analytics in place, right? When I say all the analytics in place, that means we have a machine learning and artificial intelligence based user behavioral analytics. So Kalpana, if you are logging it every day at 9 in the morning, and some days we see your behavior that you logged in at 3 a.m., now we are putting you into watch list, right? Because machine has learned that this is your normal timing, but this is the odd behavior. So we will ask you, was it you? The way Gmail asks us, right? Was it you? So the same way we will ask you. So we have that implemented security and performance-based analytics to understand the user experience. We define the risk, we define the experience score and the risk score for each user. So risk score help us define the security, experience score help us define the end user experience. And that is how we manage the internet and internet-based apps.
The COVID-19 pandemic has upended the conventional paradigms of our existence. One of these paradigms is related to how we work. The application-first economy and the digitization that was occurring over the past few years got accelerated when the pandemic hit. HR professionals are now gearing up for another challenging year as COVID-19 continues to alter how we work. Though it has been a tremendously challenging year for all of us, there still have been certain positive developments in our work patterns, as flexibility and well-being of employees became the utmost priority for organizations, placed ahead of unfettered productivity. As we enter the new decade, we have so many powerful tools and technologies at our disposal. Armed with these, companies are looking at ways to carry forward the changes brought in by 2020 and turn them into positive ways of working. However, organizations also need to brace for the remote employee burnout due to longer working hours in a remote environment and as the boundaries between personal and work life are blurring. Indeed, organizations need to look closely at employee stress management, from making well-being a part of organizational culture to even using technologies such as AI to manage employee burnout. We have an eminent guest with us to take the HR challenges arising due to the pandemic head-on and share with us few of the best practices to build an inclusive and motivated organizational environment. Please welcome Dr. Vishwanath Joshi, Chief People Officer, Hexaware Technologies. At Hexaware, he offers strategic direction to all the people, processes, and programs and aligns them to a high-growth business environment. Hi, Dr. Vishwanath. I welcome you on behalf of the audience at this fireside chat on future of work, seamless employee experience.
Thank you so much, Kalpana. Happy to be here.
Our pleasure. Dr. Vishwanath, many of the organizations have adopted a remote work environment and many have implemented a hybrid approach due to the ongoing pandemic. However, employees are facing issues like burnout, disengagement, and productivity while working from home. So what are the challenges you see in the terms of employee experience and productivity in the work from home or the hybrid work environment?
Indeed, it's been a test of time for many organizations, including Hexaware. And more importantly, I would say it's been a test of leadership in these organizations. Based on what we have experienced last a little over a year, I see that there are some challenges which are coming our way. And as organizations, as professionals, as HR professionals, we must be prepared for it. Particularly, I see three types of challenges or three areas of challenges as a result of this changing norms. One is people are going to get disconnected from the purpose of the organization. They are working alone at home, distributed across the geographies, and therefore there is a risk that this lack of interaction and socialization and continuous communication is likely to disconnect them from the very purpose of the organization. That's one challenge that I see coming up. We are already now seeing that journey from disengagement to departure has speeded up. As in the last 1.5 to 2 months, we are experiencing hectic activity in the industry, a lot of people moving jobs because that disengagement now is bearing on the people and their departure has become evident. And obviously, when you lose good talent, when you bleed talent, the organization loses, the customers lose. So that's a second challenge that I see coming up. And third, which I think is very important that we bear in mind, it may not be as visible, but if we don't do much about this situation and take it lying down, then I suspect that eventually people will settle down to doing the minimum in the organization. Yeah? All this productivity enhancement, etc., which happened last year is all going to drop like a stone, and people are going to settle down to doing like a 9 to 5, do what is told kind of a mindset, which can be very dangerous for organizations and professionals going forward. So these are the three particular challenges. Ultimately, again, like I said, if we are not prepared for it, if we don't strengthen our ability to deal with these situations, then I suspect there will be a mediocrity in performance and mediocrity in the culture of the organization. as a result of this burnout, stress, disengagement that the situation is causing right now.
Absolutely. So what are a few of the measures that you're taking care at Hexaware to deal with this situation?
Yes, yeah. So Hexaware, of course, is no different than other organizations because we are all faced with the same situation. But what Hexaware did, a few things to start with, were very interesting, and I think we are seeing the benefit of some of those initiatives last few months. When we began in this situation, I remember a call from my CEO saying that the most important and of course the topmost priority for the organization is going to be employee health. Of course, on the other side, we were looking at how do we protect our business, how do we comfort our customers, how do we logistically prepare for this situation, etc. But the most important element that was highlighted was how do we take care of our people? How do we ensure that they continue to remain healthy, safe, and of course engaged and motivated? So there are several initiatives that we started as an organization. I think we would have started them anyway, but this pandemic kind of speeded up the process and catalyzed this whole set of initiatives. I remember my first address to my employees, 20,000 of them, and the first address was about the antidote to virus at Hexaware, which we called trust. Because the most essential element that we believed will continue to bind Hexawarians together is that the organization trusts them and they trust the organization. So the first message in the culture of the organization was we should trust each other. We are in it together. And we reflected that trust in a variety of forms. One, in the way we established a series of information sharing channels. See, I'm more likely to distrust you. You are more likely to distrust me if I don't have the required information. So we said nothing at Hexaware that matters to people is going to be in strategy documents and in minds of the leaders and people. We established forums to share this information in a very open and transparent manner. One such forum that we established is what we call Leadership Lantern. It was a series of sessions with leaders. They continue even today after a year and a half. Leadership Lantern literally means leaders who are with Lantern. Nobody has answers, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen, but at least a little bit of lantern that if I can carry as a leader in the organization and show the way can actually help build that trust. The second thing that we said is we don't want people to get disconnected from even the topmost leaders in the organization. So we started a forum called Coffee with Keech. Our CEO is fondly called Keech, and Coffee with Keech became an amazing forum where a lot of ideas came in, and we acted on those ideas and made some very, very significant changes in our ways of working. So that's the second thing that we did. Third, we said, look, this pandemic can have a very, very significant negative impact on the mindsets and psychology of the people. So the best way to do or deal with the situation is connect the families of our employees. So through a series of well-designed fun events, but which also had the underlying message of engagement, we also connected not just with employees, but also their families. So there was something that we ran called Work from Home series, where people actually took photographs of their experiences working from home. They designed their home like office, they decorated their desks, etc., etc. And it actually gave new energy to people when they posted those pictures on our intranet and people commented, congratulated them. So all this, like I kept saying throughout this time, that the social distancing should not lead to emotional distancing. So what we really tried to do is to share information, connect the leaders to the ground, and make sure that there is continued energy and fun in the organization in the way we work. So along with this, we also started what is called the FIT project, FIT. We called it Fighting It Together. Right now, as we speak, leaders are launching health habits or healthy habits for people to really adopt. We this week have how important is consumption of 3 to 4 liters of water for our health. We also got experts from different fields to talk to employees. We have an amazing counseling partner who help us deal with some of the possible, mental health issues when people can reach out. So all these initiatives are geared towards what we defined as a primary priority, which is the health of the employees. And that's really how we started at Hexaware, our journey of being prepared for this long haul pandemic situation.
That's quite interesting and exciting also.
Yeah.
Okay. So as productivity challenges may affect the overall business outcomes, what are your suggestions to measure and improve productivity in the hybrid work environment?
We thought about this, and again, Kalpana, I must confess, we don't have answers to all these things right now, but we are experimenting with a few things. So let me share with you what we are experimenting with. So there are 3 areas that we are working on. Okay, it's still work in progress. I cannot claim that we have arrived there yet, but there are 3 areas. One, we are looking at how do we connect employees through technology solutions so that people can continue to collaborate and work together. So that's one area of investment that we have made. Again, maybe 3 years down the line, we would have made that investment anyway, but this pandemic situation in a way has brought this as a priority item for us. So the objective of these technology investments that we are making, we are, for example, looking at how do we create a more connected, more aligned performance management system. So we have just invested in a very robust performance management system and promoting that, because that's actually going to help us stay connected in the organization. So technology tools which are basically helping us share information with ease. Yeah, we also have a chatbot based tool which actually reaches out to employees and have a conversation. That chatbot directly works with me as a CPO and represents me in reaching out to employees. So that's one technology or some technology solutions that we are investing in. The second thing that we are investing in, and a part of my earlier response covered that, is investment in culture. So there are 2 things that we did. One, even in the pandemic, we said, here is a promise that we are making to you as Hexaware, and we called it an employee value proposition. So we launched our employee value proposition to comfort our employees that despite the difficult times, learning and growth will not stop at Hexaware. That's our promise as a part of our employee value proposition. And I believe that investment in building a strong, people-centric, transparent culture is a very, very important aspect of dealing with and improving the productivity. Third is a enhanced role of leadership in the organization, and leadership that connects with the organization. So last year, we actually had 120% coverage of employees in different communication forums. And remember, we're talking about an organization that is globally spread. So we actually formed a small groups of people whom we call location captains, who enabled information sharing in the most remote locations where Hexawarians work at different client sites. So if I have to, in a way, summarize, where is Hexaware investing in? Hexaware is investing in 3 areas to improve the productivity and continue to keep the productivity and the morale high. One, technology-based solutions, which can ease information sharing. Second, culture of trust and transparency. And third, a connecting leadership through different forums. These are 3 ways by which we believe we'll be able to deal with the situation as it stands now, and God forbid if it gets worse, then we are better prepared.
Yeah. So you talked about technology implementing performance management, performance measurement, and chatbots. So will you like to highlight who all are the technology partners? How
Yes.
did you evaluate it, and how was the project being implemented?
Sure, definitely. So our technology partners for performance management is SAP. We just invested in an SAP SuccessFactors software, and we are calling that an ACE software, ACE. ACE stands for aligned, because the objective is to align the entire organization and make sure that there is a single direction in which we are moving. So ensuring that the goals get cascaded well. So aligned. C stands for continuous, because again, when we are in office, it's very easy to quickly get and give feedback in a socializing process, right? But if we are spread and working remotely, then that feedback exchange becomes that much more difficult. So we wanted this system to be continuous, which means it's not going to be a traditional system where somebody opens a link and somebody closes the link. There's an opportunity to give and receive feedback wherever you are, at whatever time zones you work, without any constraints. And the third one is making it employee driven. Employee driven for the simple reason that we believe that the owners of the career in any organization are employees themselves. In fact, Hexaware has a program called Own Your Game, which is a continuous message to employees saying, you own your game at Hexaware. You own your performance, you own your career, you own your communication, you own the quality of projects that you do. So, we are collaborating with SAP to make sure that this system is implemented. On a chatbot, we actually went through again, that's a work in progress, I must tell you, but we are considering a couple of options where a chatbot reaches out to employees on certain milestones and have a conversation and help us highlight another very important aspect of what I believe is going to be a preparedness, which is to get authentic data on employee sentiments. And that data must help us make the right decisions rather than just depending on intuition. So these chatbots, right now, it's not signed up, so I may not be able to share with you, but we are looking at some very good products which are customizable and which can help us reach employees, understand their sentiments, and ensure that we use that data in a very active manner to focus our efforts on employee engagement and employee experience.
So how can businesses address challenges arising from design or procedural changes as well as cultural changes in the new hybrid work environment?
One element that I'm working with my leadership team on at Hexaware is how do we build an involved, inclusive workplace where people have a voice, and that voice is brought to the table whenever we are making important business decisions. So the chatbot that I talked about, plus of course, Hexaware religiously for last 5 years has been working with a consulting partner called Great Place to Work. And every year we do what is called Empower Survey. It is actually called Employee Power. And it's an exhaustive survey that helps us understand on key parameters what are employees thinking and feeling. So last year, what we did was something interesting. We actually took this data back to employees and involved them in the process of action planning to act on that data. And this year's survey, 68% employees are telling me we have become a listening organization, that we do something with the feedback that we take from employees. So my mantra for it is employee involvement and employee empowerment. I think that is where the answers are. And that's exactly what at Hexaware we are trying to do, to make sure that it's not only a group of people arriving at answers to questions, but get feedback, get the voice of employees, make them a part of the journey, and then magic will happen. And we are seeing some magic happen at Hexaware on employee engagement on this.
Exactly, having a two-way communication.
Absolutely,
Right.
You got it, Kalpana. Very true.
Right. So as many of the organizations were not equipped with the solutions and tools for the work from home environment, this impacted the overall employee experience. What are the tools and solutions which are essential for delivering seamless digital employee experience?
So, well, I wish I could give you an exhaustive list, but there are two or three things that I can see happening in the industry now. One, authentic information. Yeah. So all the tools, like the surveys, like the softwares that actually help us collect information from different sources at different points in time to make decisions. That's one tool or one process that I see can be very, very important in dealing with this situation. Of course, this cannot be done unless the organization moves from a very traditional, conventional way of collecting information to a more digital, runtime, continuous information collection. So today I can't say I will collect information on 1st of January and keep acting on it. Yeah, the pandemic has put all that out of the window, right? So one is continuous collection of authentic information as one process or one tool, whichever way you do that, through digitization. At Hexaware, we started a program called Digitizing Hexaware, where we said that no matter where you are, at whatever level you operate, you must have information at your fingertips, because that information is empowering and you can use that information to make better quality decisions. So that's one aspect of it. Second is, a part of this preparedness will also come from ensuring that there are small groups of people working on specific problems. Like, for example, today we have what we call a talent cohort. A talent cohort is a group of senior, mid-senior people who are like advisors in the organization to pick up what are the talent management challenges coming out of this pandemic situation and advise the organization on what to do with it. Because no one person can know it all, right? No one person can do it all. So how do we leverage the power of collaboration across the organization and come up with solutions, come up with creative solutions to the problems? So that's the second aspect of, if you call it a tool, then it is actually a tool for better working. And third is, of course, ensuring that there is continuous communication in the organization. Again, the tools of communication have changed. Today, we use Microsoft Teams extensively for collaborating. At any given point in time, I have 5,000 to 6,000 Hexavarians attending a session or a talk or an address by the CEO or senior leaders, and across different time zones. So we need some of these investments in collaborative communication tools so that we can continue to reach out to our people. When they are in office, it's easy. You just get people on the floor and talk to them for 15 minutes or do like a floor walk, but it's not possible right now. So some of these collaboration tools can be significantly useful in continuing to connect the organization in a virtual environment.
Right. How important is the role of workplace analytics in improving employee productivity and digital dexterity?
Now, analytics, of course, is a very, very vast subject. But when I think about it, and the way we have approached it, like any other organization, Hexaware also has a lot of dashboards and information sharing processes. There are account level meetings. There are we use BI dashboard very, very extensively. People kind of take information that they need for a variety of purposes.
How do you see the future of work planning out over the next few years?
If I have to think hard on this, there are 4 areas that I feel, Kalpana, are going to really shape the future of work. Okay, and I can say this definitely for myself and what I see at Hexaware, but just generally when I see outside, I feel that this is as true. One, people are now going to look for more and more. They're going to look for work that matters. Yeah. Therefore, the work that they do, they want it to be impactful. They want it to be purpose-driven. They want to make a difference. Yeah. It doesn't really matter at what level I operate or which culture I am in, but everybody wants that their work should matter. And I think that's going to become more and more crucial going forward with what this pandemic has taught us. So I don't think any of these are Western concepts anymore. We are becoming as modern in our work styles as the West, maybe sometimes in some areas even more than the West.
Things are evolving.
Absolutely, very fast evolving, and boundarylessness, I think, is going to be a very crucial aspect of future of work.
Thanks, Dr. Vishwanath, and that's really an interesting and thought-provoking fireside chat. Indeed, organizations should strike the balance between empowerment and control, centralization and delegation, and the number of desired levels in organization.
Absolutely.
Leaders can use the opportunity to question existing structures, rethink the effectiveness of operating models, and break down organizational silos and barriers between teams. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kalpana. It was a pleasure being a part of this session, and it was amazing experience for me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, we are going to have an excellent discussion on security strategies to fight newer threats in hybrid environment. The environment today is not at all homogeneous because you have the remote workforce distributed across the world. And also we have been working in multi-cloud environment like public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and even the edge computing already started. So the environment is pretty much hybrid. And in this scenario, I'm sure we need to have special focus on the various security policies, practices, the governance and strategies. So I am V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. I am the chairman and managing director for BT&BT, a consulting firm specialized in lean digital solutions. I am also the chairman for Smart Cities Working Group of IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology. So I would like to introduce today our esteemed panel one by one. So Ambrish Singh is a CISO for Flipkart. Thanks, Ambrish, for joining this very interesting discussion.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I have
Aman Shikara. He is a CEO for CyberSec Knights. Thanks, Aman, for joining this panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, VSR. My pleasure to be with all these gentlemen here on the session.
Thank you so much. So Milind Mungale, he is Executive Vice President and CISO, NSDL, E-Governance Infrastructure. Thanks, Milind, for joining this session.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for having me here. And I look forward to a very fruitful and intense discussion today because the topic is such.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm sure. So Mainak Biswas, he is a CISO, MK Global Financial Services. Welcome, Mainak.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see the genius minds on one forum. Really looking forward for some really insightful and interesting discussions.
Right. I'm sure. Okay. I'm sure you have been experiencing a lot of challenges. It's not only just you. In general, I am talking about the organizations. Especially post-COVID, everybody's talking about distributed workforce. But the people who worked in the IT industry, the distributed workforce, the global distributed delivery model, or global delivery model is not new. But of course, there are new tools and technologies available today. But now it's becoming a norm, and especially in the gig economy. In the gig economy, we don't have the required expertise within. So we have to depend on the external experts. In that scenario, so the workforce is distributed and a lot of external experts are basically accessing your business resources and assets from different countries and different locations. So I would like to request everyone, probably start with Ambrish. What do you think the challenges you foresee in this globally distributed remote working environment?
Thank you for asking this question. So in my view, you are looking, your question is probably not what is happening today, it is about future looking. So probably we talk about two things which is could be a primary focus of every security security head in the organization or security folks. Is the first is from the data leakage perspective. Second is the malware infection perspective. Okay. So whatever we do today, whatever the activity we are doing, we need to ensure that who is accessing what access he has, and what kind of posture or device is coming from. That is the reason if you see in last 1 year, the concept of zero trust has been coined more than often than it was before. It was existing and in silos, so like Google, Akamai and all, they took a lot of steps, and now we see that a lot of product companies are coming up with those solves. Rather than it was in concept, right now they're putting this into a product kind of setup. Okay, so Zero Trust is still very far away, but that is where the companies are going towards, because they know that distributed environment will come. It has come, surprise everybody, and the company, those who had a fair amount of good, solid people, process, and technology in their security setup, they were able to navigate through this very quickly. Otherwise, the organization have struggled for some time, and then they started looking at what others are doing, and they did a bunch of things. So this is what the two things I can just let you know.
The bounced back. Yeah, initially there was some struggle. Yes, agree. So Aman, what do you say about this globally distributed environment, remote working and all? Like Amrish said, it's not new, but I think now that it got accelerated and new devices, new technologies got added. Complexity has gone up.
True. Very, very much true. And Amrish has rightly said, like industry was not ready to handle this kind of a change, and it was all just pushed down, and everyone had to adopt. There was no option for anyone. Now the biggest challenge that came was like while many of the IT companies, they were still adopted work from home kind of a model or remote workforce. They had the remote workforce. They had the technology and process in place. But when organizations which were not in favor of these kind of work modes, so when they had to adopt it, it all became a mess for them. Especially because now the user, they were using their own devices. The organization was not ready to ship their assets, and when they were using their own assets, it was altogether unmanaged assets accessing their whole infrastructure. There was a big hygiene problem. No one was aware what sort of a antivirus they are running on it, whether it's updated or not, patch systems are patched or not, who they are accessing from their home network, they're accessing from public Wi-Fi's. So it was all basic hygiene and the accessibility issues that the organization had to deal with. Now they had to adopt, they had to modify certain architecture to make the resources available to these remote workforces. Then again, the security controls were adopted, and there was no, you can say, a proper planning that went into that particular phase. Gradually, yes, as Amrish rightly said, that initially they went out in big bang manner. They just thought of like, we need to make the business running, and then they gradually started maturing it, starting implementing controls. And now the organizations are pretty much in a shape where they know the risk, they have identified it, a bit of it which has already been managed and a bit which yet to be managed. So we are in that kind of a stage. So yes, the larger challenges that came were from the malware space, then the data exfiltration, and also in terms of the credentials theft and system compromise, because now these workforce was not within the premise which already has a protected layer around it, and now they are in out and wild, and the attackers were aggressively targeting it. If you see the stats during this COVID time, the attacks have increased exponentially, and these are the very weak workforce which could have been easily compromised.
Sure, thank you, Aman. Milind, I think if you hear from Aman or Amrish, so I think initially it was slow, but after that it got accelerated, but still it is a long way to go. What are all the strategies and practices in the last 1 year you think newly implemented to take care of these security issues which were not there? I think like Aman said, it was protected in the past. Maybe in the traditional industries, remote working was not that known. Maybe in some of the knowledge intensive industries, it might be known, right? So what do you think the different security policies, practices, software, hardware they brought in to encourage this remote and distributed working environment?
I think as both of them called out, it was something which was not a part of the traditional work environment in our country, at least. And as you called it out, very few organizations had mentally adopted to the culture of work from home. A year back, during the same time, we are on 6th, 7th of March. If anyone would have gone and talked to their management that let us have half of our staff working from home, I am sure it would have been treated as a joke within the organization. And that's something which is the fact. But today, each and every management has also mentally reconciled that if business has to work, it has to be work from home. You can't insist on working from office. But what has happened in last 1 year is because of this compulsion, I would say, because it was not a thought of and planned exercise, because of this compulsion, I would say, it is something where a lot of other ecosystem players came together. For example, work from home has seen suddenly a lot of activities within training and development department. Why? Because suddenly the IT and IT security department felt that people are logging in from home, but they don't have that kind of an awareness. They still are working as if they are working on the local LAN, and they are still that casual as they were in the local LAN, because local LAN all said and done was a fortified thing. To some extent, local LAN is fortified, and suddenly you come all over. It's like you're roaming about in the home. You can walk anywhere, anyhow. But if you are walking on the road, you have to think about the traffic. Otherwise, you risk yourself. The same thing happened when it comes to talking about the internet highway. When you are on the LAN, you can go from anywhere to anywhere. And if you are going in the wrong place, obviously there will be someone to stop you. But when you are on the internet, unless and until you don't come to the company's gates, it is not possible for anyone to know what are you doing over there. And that is the reason why awareness was something which was required. The second most important thing, which was the core of this whole work from home, was suddenly everyone required a secure practices and secure solutions to connect to the network. So I think VPN, the kind of implementations of VPN has happened, the kind of upgrades to the equipment and the technology has happened, or the kind of support system that was developed for people to get enabled on VPN and continue to help them on VPN to operate smoothly, has gone up substantially in this last 1 year. If you ask me from security solutions point of view, I don't know how many people moved from antivirus to EDR during this 1 year, because frankly speaking, that is something which is a big decision. Anyone would think, whatever is the situation, anyone would think my subscription to antivirus is there still for another 6 months. Why should I rush into an EDR? Let that get over. No one would think that because of remote working, suddenly EDR is more important. And now, even before people adopted EDR, XDR has come, people are that much more confused. Even when you tell the end users that I want to remove your antivirus and put EDR, he wants to know what is EDR. And when you explain him, he said, oh, it is another kind of antivirus. So that is the kind of a situation which is there. And to give a one sentence answer to what you have asked, yes, training has gone up, awareness sessions have increased, and casualness of attending the awareness session. Many of the organizations in the past, when the training would be scheduled, people would think that it is something which company wants to give a break from the work. But now, if they don't attend the training, mails are going to them, justification is asked as to why you are not attending the training. And VPN infrastructure has been upgraded, new VPN infrastructure has been set up, and those who could not do a capital expenditure, I think they went in for cloud-based connectivity using cloud-based VPN and all that.
Okay.
So that's a thing which I am able to say now, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point you raised. I think training in the past, we used to have vacant places. Not many people attend. Everybody say 98% I'm busy in my regular work. Today is a life and death. I cannot compromise any security, right? They are gone. So I think it is becoming mandatory. Like you said, different tools got implemented and all. I'm sure the training will continue. It's not like one-time activity. It is a regular, and probably this trend and pattern may continue because the hackers are very intelligent than us. So they do so many innovations. So we have to be ready for that.
Not only that,
so
slowly training will become a compulsory part of many regulations, and then there will be mandates and there will be evidences which have to be captured. So entire ecosystem will fall in place to bring in that seriousness into this.
Wow, that's good. So regulatory means, I think, yeah, we have to comply. So of course, we have to also improve the quality. It's not only quantity. The organizations have to have that learning commitment. Thank you so much. Mainak, can you please also share some of your thoughts on continuing to the other panel speakers? So what do you think the last 1 year or prior to that or in future, you think remote working, distributed workforces, what security threats will be there, what precautions to be taken in our view?
Working from home or remote working or teleworking was there in the organizations. It's just that it was majorly for financial houses like us. We never thought that there was a time when broking people would have to be sitting at home and running the business. Okay, for us it's like 9 to 5. Market opens and we have to rush. We have to book. Okay, now that was a serious technological dependency what we were having, and having this technological dependency over remote access was something a nightmare. Okay, now here, if you understand, a simple terminal calling a terminal server requires those ports to be open, which are itself vulnerable. Okay, now within the land, within the organization, yes, there was control. We used to control it. But when now the profits, the shares, the entire broking stuff happening over the internet, sitting in the homes or sitting wherever, we cannot control it. So that there is so the acceptance of the risk. Okay, the acceptance of the risk, I feel, has increased. Okay, business has to convince themselves that we have to accept some categories of risks. Okay, we cannot say that, hey, we have to be 100% secure. So there is no 100% secure formula right now. It's just a business should continue. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing, privacy over confidentiality. So when before that the data was confidential much than being a private. Today it is different. Today data is private than being confidential. The reason is very simple, that today people are accessing data from anonymous regions. Okay, by quoting a word that it is a business requirement. Organizations cannot hold them to access the data because that is the need. How much relevant, how much not relevant, that is a different thing. Organization cannot have that hold to the person that, hey, you cannot access the data. That's the need. Okay, so the granularity level governance, the governance is a major hit, which I felt in this entire lockdown period. Even today, the governance is a major hit. Although companies have invested a lot in taking those work from home solutions and everything, but at the same point of time, you cannot actually control a person. You cannot control a person because these solutions are internal to your system. Okay,
Right.
internal to your system. And when I'm accessing from internet to the internal to your system, the system doesn't know who am I.
Yes.
So there,
Right.
the administrator has put an only any to any rule into the firewall, saying that anybody coming must get everything what he wants.
Thank you so much. I think you brought out very important points like governance and the risk
Yeah.
appetite. That means the maybe the role of chief risk officer must be integrated with the CISO, making sure that proactively identifying the risks and mitigation plans to be there. Privacy versus confidentiality. All these are, I think, I'm sure a lot of focus has come in the last probably one plus year. Thank you so much. Aman, you raised a very important point. On the security threats have gone up during COVID-19. So continuing that, I will ask Amrish. I think Flipkart, into the more and more the consumer intensive industry. Can you share what are all the threats got increased? I mean, so many threats have been there. It's not like threats are new. But do you see any new threats, or do you see the volume of threats of the past have gone up or something like that during this COVID-19 period?
Sure. So probably if you talk about threat landscape of company like us, so that if you, I can divide it into three buckets. One is the threat emerging from the employees, one is threat emerging from the partners, and third is the customers, what they are facing. Okay, so from an employee's perspective, we were always there because we have the something called kind of VPN solution where we do posture assessment and all. So no foreign device can connect to my VPN, in no chance, because we ensure that that part machine is part of domain. It has got EDR, a bunch of other things. Okay. Secondly, coming to part of the partner ecosystem. In COVID, the threat landscape has gone very, very high because you talk about seller support, customer support. So most of their agents are working from home. And initially 3 months, probably all agents started working from their personal assets. So we need to bumble the security, talk to the partners, what they're doing about it, help them. Because see, every partner is not in a position to invest so much of money immediately into the security. So help them how they will achieve. So we help them probably look at the viable VDI solution, viable something called EcoOps solution. So these solutions provide the two major things. One is a lot of DLP controls around it. Okay, you can do whatever you want, and probably they can access. They cannot do anything other than somebody can take a photograph. Second thing is that malware proliferation. Even if somebody accessing something from his personal asset, and normally personal asset I got pirated operating system and no antivirus, etc. Correct. Even if infection, that infection cannot come to my network because there is a logical segregation between his network and my network, between his VDI setup and my setup. There is a.
But any threats you have seen in the upswing in the sense, yes, they cannot get into your internal network, but at the same time, do you see the attempts where the type of threats have gone up? Which areas the threats have gone up? Any thoughts on that?
No, so what we are seeing is, if we talk about from our organization perspective, we're not seeing any major spikes anywhere, because we already had some kind of concept. Whenever we engage with any partner, probably there is a logical segregation between two networks, and we do consistent basis assessment, on-site, off-site, everything we do. Okay. If we talk about industry perspective, the malware, talk about ransomware, the cyber criminals have also taken this advantage. Okay.
Right.
And the ransomware attack has gone multi-fold high. That's why Milind was saying, and the EDR solves. Everyone is not thinking about EDR. A lot of people have moved to EDR. A lot of people are moving to EDR. A lot of people are thinking about it.
Okay.
Because that is probably they're looking at this is the future, so why not invest in right technology?
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Amrish. Aman, I think, so you mentioned there is an increase in the threats. So I have two questions for you. One is what you observed, not just in the one organization, you might have seen probably multiple organizations as a form. And the second one is, I'm sure now everybody is talking about the cloud computing in a different way. Okay, without multi-clouds, there is no way we can really take up the enterprise loads, because the loads have gone up tremendously from the past, right? So hybrid cloud, public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud. So with these two aspects, so what do you think you basically expect the organizations to improve their governance, their policies, or any new software and hardware need to be brought into the system in this multi-cloud environment, and also edge computing has come into picture now?
Yeah. Very much you have rightly said, definitely in this COVID time, cloud has been a very supportive infrastructure for all these organizations to adopt in this difficult time. Definitely. A lot of companies have been forced to adopt cloud in this environment. And with variety of solutions running across, definitely a hybrid environment is what most of the organizations are right now running into. So in terms of, first you said that the kind of a threat, yes, malwares have increased significantly. Phishing has gone exponentially because attackers, they know the people are on, you can say, unprotected assets. They have a weak security posture around, and the controls are not applicable to them in this kind of environment. So they have targeted them significantly, and especially in terms of maybe providing emails in relation to COVID vaccine, maybe related to some sort of best practices, maybe someone is trying to give a kind of education of a working from home environment, but actually they are dumping the malwares to them. So phishing attacks have gone exponentially high. And another thing that the advantage that these attackers took is the adoption of cloud. Now, when organizations moved into the cloud infrastructure, they were not ready for it. They didn't plan for it. They don't have the right governance. They don't have the right set of configuration, right set of tool to run their infrastructure in that. But it was a kind of a forced acceptance. Now they started exploiting it, and that's where we saw increase in breaches or increase in attacks, and mostly it happens because of the misconfiguration. Now you rightly said, organizations are running multi-cloud environment. So there are what are the basic challenge if we go with this kind of a model? There is a first challenge that comes from the architectural side. Like when we have an on-prem, we have designed a right architecture. We know what is lying where and how the things are communicating. But when we talk of multiple clouds, to bring a uniformity of control across the cloud, it is a challenge for any CISO. then the different clouds have their different best practices. Unless and until you adopt to it, you will be at risk. The misconfiguration. See, people are talking of like cloud is a risky thing, but if you see, it is not because of the cloud service provider. The most of the breaches happens because of the misconfiguration that which is in the shared responsibility model. It is a responsibility of an organization to securely configure the cloud infrastructure, what we people are not doing. So that has caused a lot of problem. And then the third challenge comes from the governance space. Working in this heterogeneous environment, implementing right set of governance is again a big challenge. So in terms of how if we talk of how the organizations can adopt it securely or how can mitigate these challenges, there has to be a unified strategy. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are thinking, like if I have to define a control, that has to go across the board. It should be implemented on the on-prem. It should be implemented on all the cloud premises. The best practices have to be adopted very seriously. And most significantly is the IAM. All about access management. Unless and until we define the right IAM policies, we define what resources can access what resource, how the communication can happen, and to what granular level they can access, will be in a deep mess.
Sure.
There are tools which can help us out here. So like CSPM is one thing that organizations can adopt, which can give them the visibility of misconfiguration or the open risk. CASB can be adopted, and SASE is something which is in talk these days and which organizations can adopt for a secure cloud adoption.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Aman. It was, I think it's wonderful. You brought out very important points like the architecture is very important. The configuration has to be very carefully done. It cannot be done just like that. But due to COVID-19, I think it got accelerated. Maybe my fear is that, like we call technology debt, there should not be a security debt. Maybe I'm not sure anybody used that word or not till now. It's not like just simply you do it in a hurry with the quick fixes. Okay, let me do this, that, and all. But don't create that security debt and have some other problems in future. So as you rightly said, configuration, strategy, governance, architecture, and the tools implementation, and especially in the multi-cloud environment, how you architect everything, the environment and everything is very, very key. Thank you so much, Aman. Now I'll come back to a very interesting topic now. I think we have been hearing, unfortunately, in the today's hyper-connected era, we have fake news factories. What is new, what is really right, what is wrong, you don't know. And what we are talking, the video can be edited and make with deep technology something what we did not speak. So in that era, there are some rumors and something may be reality. I want to ask Milind. Milind, we heard that one of the rogue countries has hacked our Mumbai power grid, or the Kedarnath floods have happened because of some device. And all these things we have been hearing. All right. So, but it may not be true today, but what is the worry I have is, if my ports are intelligent, where I use IoT devices and make it artificial intelligence enabled ports, airports or seaports, whatever, or my physical infrastructure is instrumented and make it more intelligent, can be accessed from anywhere, anytime. And my whole physical infrastructure, ports and the hotel malls, movie theaters, if everything is intelligent, fortunately or unfortunately, we are not at that stage today. Maybe after 5 years, we may see that digital India, everything is connected. Then what is the guarantee that the other countries don't misuse that? So what are the precautions needs to be taken under this intelligent infrastructure, which we are going to really accelerate in the next 5 years? What security threats will be there? What a country and organizations have to do to overcome any crisis which they foresee?
Yeah, here it is basically what we must look at is that normally such kind of things happen in a rush. People want to adopt new technologies. People want to make digital India, smart cities, everything in a very fast pace. No one is saying that we will have digital India dream come true in next 20 years. They always want to make it happen in months or maybe in a matter of year. And the reason for that is definitely not because, I mean, of course, there is a reason that everyone should enjoy and have that comfort of digital India. But main reason, many a times if you think, and I don't know whether it is an appropriate word to use or not, but most of the motivation is political in nature. And most of the times, these kind of initiatives are taken more from the point of view of gaining political mileage while definitely doing good to the country or to the state or to the city or to the geography. And that is the reason why the things are rushed. Now, when you rush on certain things, what is the stage after rush? Like Aman also mentioned just now, things had to be put in a hurry. You also mentioned it. After rush, the stage that has to normally come is that of review. If you have not reviewed and implemented, and if you have implemented, then you have to review after that. But what normally and logically happens, the stage comes that of relax. Ho gaya, the work is over. The thing is, that is where I think that kind of mindset change has to happen. And that mindset change can come only and only by people. So as much as we talk of smart countries, smart cities, smart malls, smart multiplexes, smart markets, people have to be also smart, no? So that is where basically.
So like you said, we have to train them. We have to even train the citizens.
Yeah. So how do you make citizens smart? How do you make the users smart? How do you make the service providers smart? That is where the question comes. And if you look from fishing to whatever you said, rogue country trying to sabotage some kind of a very essential service in the country, that too, it's all hearsay. No one is coming out very clearly. Neither are they admitting, nor are they. In physical terrorism, what happens is there's always an organization or a body which is going public and taking responsibility of it. If there is some bombing happen, in 2 or 3 days, someone will come, maybe with a dark background and a dark face. You can't make out who's the person, but someone will come and assume responsibility. This is what I did. But in digital space, after doing everything, the one who does never comes forward or assumes responsibility that this is what I have done. And then again, the interpretation is based on what is suitability. For those whom it will be beneficial, they will call it out as an hacking job. Those who it will not be very suitable, they will say we have done all the investigation. It was a technical glitch. And what was a technical glitch? No one knows. So these are the kind of things which happen. So when you say that what happens with this smart, digital, everything kind of a thing, huge amount of IoT is installed everywhere for the benefit and the convenience of the people. They are themselves double-edged swords.
I think not just the organizations, even at the country level, the government of India and also the each state government have to look at whether they call it CISO or any security officer, whoever it is. The domain experts have to really take the precautions, because day by day we are talking about so much of digitalization. Okay, thank you so much. So Milind, I want to ask you one question. Like nowadays, I think everybody is talking about everything software defined. Even when I am driving this smart cities, I am saying software defined smart cities. Now, software-defined networks are programmable networks within the organizations, outside the organizations, becoming a norm, and they are becoming more intelligent, and can be hacked from anywhere. So, what are the security threats you see now, and you foresee what precautions to be taken in that space? Can you please quickly share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So, when it comes to talking from software-defined, one thing we must remember is that it is a digital world and a physical world demarcation. So where you used to control the ports by connecting physical cables or connecting the physical connectors to it, now everything is within the software. So the people who were managing that physical network have to change their mindset and start thinking digital. If they configure the software-defined network in the same manner that they have been configuring their physical network, I am sure there is going to be a catastrophe over there.
Right.
The second thing is that the compliance part is so heavy on the organizations nowadays that most of the people want to just live up to the compliance requirements. But when we talk of new technologies, when we talk of adopting new things, obviously we cannot simply live within the compliance lines. Most of the security and risk functions would always look at what is required to be compliant and are we complying or not. How many people think that compliance should be a byproduct of what they are doing and not the main goal of what they are doing? Instead, most of the time, people will say that. I mean, if I'm allowed to say, Amrish mentioned that whenever the DPA will come, Data Protection Act, At that time, Flipkart would be required to give a lot of features to its customers. They will be
personalized.
Yeah. After 10 years, I can ask Amrish, give me all the transactions that I have done on the Flipkart for last 10 years and share with me where all you have shared these transactions, where all you have kept it, where the backups are and all that. And Amrish will have to give me. Now just imagine that if this is what he has to do, and if he has to do it for millions of customers, then why do anyone require a technological solution to beat the business of Flipkart? I can simply, there are hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people who put such a request for 100 rupees in our country. And then whole time the IT and IT security will be busy in doing that. Who will support the business? What I'm coming to is that as an outcome of it, they will go through the compliance requirements and they will put, like WhatsApp, one agreement in front of me whenever I join, and they will ask me to tick it. And using that agreement, they will tell me that you accepted that you will not exercise this right.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that is what is the story of all the organizations. So there has to be a balance between compliance and doing things in spirit. If we do things in spirit, obviously there would not be a compulsion or a burden of compliance, because compliance will be a byproduct of it. Coming back to your question, when it comes to talking about software defined, the scale at which the operations are growing and the scale at which people want this whole thing to work, businesses are no more going to wait to double for next 5 years. They want to double their business within a year. And if they want to double the business in a year and everything is digital, obviously the infrastructure will go up. You can't be having 10,000 switches in your data center to connect the network. You will have one server, very heavy one, and software defined network over there.
Absolutely.
So from that point of view, obviously all those threats which we are facing in application would now layer down to the network layer.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is what I feel.
I think, yes, I think there should be, like Aman said in the previous discussion, like for everything, you cannot do it in ad hoc way. There should be a strategy, there should be an architecture, there should be what right tools how to use, what is the right governance, right policies, all these things required for the overall, I think, the cybersecurity related.
And just to extend one more minute of my talk, what Mainak said, that a process-oriented person or a process owner only knows what he has to do to keep the business running.
Correct.
And so that is the reason why he also doesn't have a priority. It's a very old example which I would like to give. Put in front of a business owner that this is the feature which market has been waiting for last 2 months. We have developed it, but it has got some small security vulnerability. To fix that, I need another 15 days. Can I release this feature after 15 days? 99.9% the business owner is going to say, you release this feature today and then fix it.
Thank you. So my other question to all of you, maybe you can eat within 30 seconds. What do you think in 2021, the security priorities for India and in general? And in specific, do you see any role of DevSecOps in this whole setup in 2021?
If over 2021, a lot of organizations are going to continue their focus on the cloud adoption, strengthening what they have been doing for last 1 year, because a lot of organizations are going to work from home and they are going to leverage this for a long time. They have realized this potential, which was not visible to them earlier. First thing, second thing, I think the zero trust is going to become very big way. And in all this setup, SecDevOps takes very major role. If we talk about product companies, where they are very fast moving, very agile, they want to ship new features very quickly. So DevSecOps plays a very key role. Like what kind of change management you have, what kind of rigor you have, what kind of friction you have, what kind of people have access to, those kind of issues and need to be solved from the day one itself. Otherwise, at the cost of speed, probably you will compromise security and whole organization will be at stake, because today business is based on the reputation and trust.
Because of this phishing, ransomware and phishing attacks going up, I think most of the organization will understand the importance of going for DMARC and implement DMARC into there, which is very today, which is got a very low footprint in the corporate world. The second thing that I see is that organizations are slowly trying to understand as to is defending ourselves or preventing an attack is enough, or we have to do some more study about it. And so I think the next technology that the organizations will look very seriously and adopt will be that of a deception technology. And the third thing that I feel, which is also one of the very important things when it comes to talking about today's world, and that is it will be more from the point of view of an automated systems for awareness sessions and all that. So e-learning and edtech kind of solutions will be highly adopted. So you don't have to set up a training room, you don't have to set up a virtual meet, you don't have to take the attendance. You simply put the sessions on the web and ask people to attend it. Whether they attended or not will be clearly understood, because the solutions are such, the kind of solutions which are built itself tells you.
In terms of DevSecOps, definitely I see a value coming out of it, and organization will have to adopt it, because it, in this kind of an agile environment, it shorten your release cycle and it automatically fixes out your vulnerabilities. It minimize the time frame you require to fix those gaps, and definitely it helps out organization to reach out market very fast and in a secure fashion. So that has to be there, and that will stay. Focus will be around data protection and privacy. Instead of securing the infrastructure, they will focus on more on the data, what kind of data is lying, how to protect it, the privacy. So those things will come into focus. Second thing is, industry have been talking a lot about security, but now resiliency will again come into the picture. Now organizations, they have accepted that breach has to happen. Now, unless until they're resilient, their business will not come back soon. So the resiliency will one of the important factor going forward in the coming years. Third is around cyber insurance, again driven with the kind of a threat landscape we are right now in. It's imperative to say, like, there is no absolute security. So organization has to be ready to face the worst, and cyber insurance is something which will help them out there. So that will again be a focus for organization going forward. They will work in terms of using the tools to bring in more automation, to bring more detection and response capabilities, because the soon you can detect any anomaly, the soon you can respond to it, it will help you out in bad situations. So that will be again a focus. And another focus that I see is around user awareness, where they will educate their users, they will give responsibility on each and every user to adopt for it. And probably last thing that I would say is the you can say vendor assessment or third-party risk management, because a lot of supply chain attacks have come in these recent times, and now organizations have kept it in a bucket, but now they cannot ignore it going forward. So they're integrating with multiple parties, and definitely along with their own infrastructure, they will look for the security aspect and these partners levels.
All right, very good. Thank you so much, Aman. Whatever we spoke till now, probably I think the cyber security we have been talking for many years. Okay, it got accelerated. There is some security debt created, and IoT also we started talking. But now I think the next 5 years, if you see smart contracts, okay, somebody can hack it, they can change the smart contract. The algorithms can be hacked, somebody can do something. Then the unmanned vehicles or drones, I can probably throw it into a different direction than what I want. Or it can rob, we don't know. Some of the videos we have seen, to what extent they are true or not. The drone robbers, right? So what do you think in the next 3 to 5 years, what is the preparedness and what needs to be done in these areas?
First and foremost thing is, when you look from machine learning point of view, it has to learn. The whole objective of it is that it has to self-learn. And for it to self-learn, it has to be exposed to everything that is happening. Earlier, when machine learning solutions were coming in, people said that it would take 3 to 4 months to do the learning. And when they saw the customer reaction saying that 3 to 4 months, I'm going to see nothing, suddenly that period dropped down to 8 weeks. And now some of them claim that their solutions are so good that it can learn in 3 weeks. I asked them one question: how can something be learned in 3 weeks if my half-yearly report and annual report or annual transactions are going to be away 8 months or 9 months? It is not the same thing. Take, for example, if someone has to do a machine learning on a tax payment system, then you have to wait for the first advance tax date to come. If it is 3 months away, it is 3 months away. You can't just learn that in 3 weeks, what is going to happen after 3 months. So that is where I think there is a big gap, and the solution providers are trying to tempt the people by saying that machine learning period is so small. And again, it leads to one more chain of catastrophe, because machine learning has not happened properly. And then that is all blamed onto the solution, saying that machine learning solution will not work.
Sure.
Artificial intelligence. Now, there's a difference between artificial intelligence. Many people think that logical intelligence is artificial intelligence. Logical intelligence is what you program. where someone sits, breaks his head, and puts every possible condition into it. There is a decision support system. The banking fraud management system, the credit card usage system are all logical intelligence. You can't be having a credit card usage in India and US with a half an hour gap. Is something which is a logical thing. Machine learning has adopted to the system, has learned a lot of things about the system, created certain patterns, and system has to, which is called as artificial intelligence, has to use those patterns and logically think what is to happen. So from that point of view, I think maturity curve is far away, according to me, though people mention a lot of things. Blockchain is a very strong algorithm. I mean, I am absolutely not concerned about the smart contracts, to tell you very frankly. It's a very bold statement, but I would like to make it with confidence that blockchain is a very, very strong platform.
So that will become one of the important technologies for improving security.
Yes,
and tamper-proof. So I think
if deployed properly, not deployed because, to tell you very frankly, it's a very bold statement, but I would like to make it with confidence that blockchain is a very, very strong platform.
So that will become one of the important technologies for improving security.
Yes,
and tamper-proof. So I think
if deployed properly, not deployed because everyone is deploying blockchain. So I have to find some use case to deploy the blockchain. Is not the way to go about it.
Sure.
Someone should be able to say, I don't have any blockchain use case.
Sure. So thank you so much. I think it's a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful ideas and suggestions and inputs. And we'll conclude this.
Good afternoon everyone. I hope all of you are doing safe and healthy at homes. These are the unprecedented times of, I would say, the phase 2 of the COVID. We were inching actually backward to the offices, due to the work from home fatigue. Work from home will continue to stay for a while, and which may mean that the enterprises have to rethink on how they actually ventured into creating a work from home or work from remote environment and continue to optimize that environment, right? COVID-19 obviously also has forced many of the companies to fast track on digital transformation journey, and also has accelerated the need to create digital workplaces, especially remote workforce. My name is Harnath Babu. I am the CIO for KPMG in India. I'm going to be conducting the masterclass today on how to create a frictionless digital working experience for employees. So what goes into building an enterprise digital workplace strategy? According to a survey, approximately 44% of the employees today globally still face regular difficulties getting basic questions answered about their benefits and resolving workplace equipment issues, right? It's about empowering employees to have the best experience, and so that there is an imperative for the enterprises to create the digital workplace where people can collaborate and get things done without need to commute to the work. It is important to establish a roadmap and blueprint to build a virtual workplace with all the required technology and tools. Teams should be able to collaborate as well as participate in enterprise social events seamlessly. So being from the knowledge industry at KPMG, we prepared a digital workplace strategy quite a while ago, right? And when we were hit by the pandemic situation, we were not really taken up by surprise, right? Because the environment was very well enabled, or the enterprise was very well enabled to deal with the COVID scenario, right? And we also considered implementation of advanced technologies like robotic process automation, to machine learning and chatbots, to make sure that we are giving the next generation world-class, working environment for employees, especially keeping in mind the productivity of the employees. One of the good examples that I can take here is the whole chatbot, for some self-services. We started back in 2016, I would say 2016, 2017, when we said why an employee has to be dependent on a physical human being to address the queries or address the tickets that the person would have specifically around, let's say, IT. So it started as a pilot, but got extended to other functions as well. So as we speak, we have approximately 18 different kind of bots that are actually used by the employees today in the firm to do self-service, which obviously has created a new experience for the employees. We also ventured into what we call collaboration 2.2. Being in the knowledge industry, very heavy on collaboration, requirements or collaboration technologies. We started the journey some time back on enhancing our collaboration capabilities. We moved from fixed desks, which typically are prevalent in many of the organizations today, to what we call as open collaboration spaces, which means that employees can walk into the office, spend time, collaborate with colleagues, and just move on. Right. We also brought in the idea of hot desking, which means that you don't really need to have a desk fixed, right? So you could just walk into the office, choose the seat that you want to sit in, would do your work and move on, right? I think that's the kind of flexibility that we built over the last couple of years. As the pandemic started hitting most of the organizations, so we also started focusing on what we call the cloud first strategy, right? So we started really rethinking on how we are deploying technology within the enterprise. How are we leveraging the cloud to the maximum, right? And we started introducing more emerging technologies around collaboration and seamless communication across the enterprise. We are very heavy on collaboration as we speak. Being in a consulting industry, we collaborate amongst ourselves. We collaborate with our clients as well, which may mean that we are using technologies like Zoom, Teams, and various other technologies being offered by Microsoft Suite. Let's say M365 or O365, right? To provide seamless work in remote environment. We also enabled our employees to access the enterprise services on mobile, which means that they can access not only collaboration platforms, but also are able to edit documents, and make, I would say, proposals for clients or deliverables for clients while they are on the go. So I think some of these capabilities have really given us that edge when it comes to working from remote. One important investment that we did last year, while all of us were dealing with COVID situation, was creating an app on low code, no code platform, what we call as Safe at Work, which is being used for allowing employees to come to the office after they book a seat online. They are supposed to give the information about their health and well-being practically on a weekly basis to make sure that the firm is having a clear view of who is where and how are they doing, right, across the country. Right? People have moved across different states when the lockdown happened last year, right, and they continue to stay wherever they are. Also, establishing a clear-cut change management process is important, right? When you're making large, or let's say changes to a large enterprise like this, you would need to have a very clear change management strategy, because it's not about a few hundreds or few thousands. It's about, we as a firm today in the country, we're 27,000 people strong, and making any change of the sort would mean that people have to seamlessly adopt the new technology. That means you need to have very, very strong change management capabilities. We've been investing on these change management capabilities. We are giving, a frequent communication to our employees to make sure that they are able to understand what's happening from a technology rollout perspective, how the technology can really help them, improve their productivity. Right. One important thing, which is again, when it comes to designing a digital workplace, is the security. Right. So when you are having people sitting outside the office, it's not anymore sitting inside the office. It's about people sitting outside the office, sitting anywhere. They're more vulnerable to cybersecurity threats. So how do you continue to make your people aware that they should be vigilant? How do you continue to secure your assets which are working from remote? Right. I think some of these capabilities obviously have to be really thought through when it comes to building a digital workplace strategy. Digital workplace strategy also consists of one important element, which is the experience of the employees. Right? It's about providing, while you would have brought in a lot of technology, but I think it's important to have consistent experience when it comes to the digital workplace and employees when they are accessing from wherever they are. So it's what we call from a B2C environments, we say omni-channel experience or consistent experience for customers. I think it equally applies to the employees, right? So when they are accessing any application which is supposed to be within the enterprise, or which is supposed to be for either for self-service or for assisting clients, there has to be consistency in the way they are accessing technology, and the productivity can obviously be taken care of. So it's about empowering the employees with integrated platforms instead of having broken siloed approach from an applications point of view. You need to invest in creating digital workflows, which will allow you to not only integrate the processes but also give you a very seamless experience from an employee perspective. The second thing that you can look at from an experience point of view is considering the need for the day, right? It's about the mobility. It's about virtual agents that typically people are using in their own personal lives. So how do you continue to have similar experience that they are having in their personal lives to the professional lives? So the consistency remains between personal and professional as well. We also have, just to take an example from our point of view, we also have launched an initiative called Ease My Tech, which is basically focusing on complete hire to retire cycle of employees, right? Starting from pre-boarding to exit of the employee to the time he becomes the alumnus of the firm. Every experience is thought through, right? Thought through. Every touch point from a technology point has been thought through, and those interventions have, or we've brought in those interventions to make sure that there's consistency in the way people are accessing technology, right? And which includes and not limited to, let's say, user interfaces, as I said, digital workflows, as I said, mobile technologies, right? Allowing people to access cloud environments, and things like that. And as you create that experience for employees, I think it's equally important for people to have to stay productive, right? I think one of the biggest challenges that most of the employers or organizations are facing today is how do you continue to measure the productivity of the employee, right, while they're working from home. I think it's all about trust, right? So I think UCB as an organization, we believe that employees are sensitive about their work, right, and they understand their responsibilities, and that's again, it's the trust relationship between the employer and the employee. But I think one of the important factors, if you really are looking at working from home from a continued perspective, I think it's important to continue to measure the productivity of the employee. I think, as I said, trust is the most important factor when you're allowing your employees to work from home, right? It's important to set the expectations with the employee, right, and communicate the objectives very clearly. If no objectives set for the employee, obviously you'll have leakages, right? So I think it's important to set the expectations very clearly, establish a very clear team code of conduct to make sure there's consistency, right? So you can't have different team members thinking differently and delivering differently. There has to be a team code of conduct which they're supposed to follow. One of the important things that we've learned in last, I would say, 1 year and a half, again, because of the pandemic that has come, I would say, that got accelerated, is communication is one of the key aspects when it comes to people working from remote. Being in constant touch with your employees, clearly communicating what is right for the firm, what is right for the project that you're doing, and what is right for the team, right, in terms of team spirit. But I think there has to be constant communication that has to happen with the employees. There are few companies which are investing in technologies to track how employees are spending their time on the machine, right? How much time they're spending on meetings or let's say working on a particular software and things like that. But I think that may sometimes raise a privacy concern, right? And again, as I said, it's about trust. So we are in KPMG, we are allowing people to do self-analysis of their own work. We use a platform called My Analytics, which is a 365-based platform, which is actually helping employees to figure out how much time they're spending on emails, to meetings, to collaborating with other colleagues, right? Or how much are they spending time networking and things like that, right? And again, it's for their own benefit, because it also kind of gives you suggestions around where to focus, which are the times that is available, or what all follow-ups ideally they should have done. And it's a very intuitive platform that we've given. It's again very self-help, I would say, a platform for employees to continue to stay productive, right? And the idea is not limited to only self-help or tools, but also continue to do scrum calls, one-on-one status updates. I think some of those continue to remain as you were remote, work from remote. See, I think the idea is not to create much of a differentiation between when you are physically present, in the offices versus when you work from remote. So try to get as much of that cultural aspect or the processes that you're following when you're in the offices to the remote working. Try to make it more close so that people don't really find it very difficult to adopt or continue to stay, work from remote environments. Another important thing, I think we briefly discussed about it, is the productivity challenges with online workspaces. Right? So I think online workspaces are not deemed considered as effective. There are obviously remote working challenges while we said how to stay productive, how to create an experience. But I think it's important to also look at some of the nuances of the I would say remote working challenges that are there when you're working from remote. Some of them that I can think is excessive work, which is basically people tend to start at a time and end at a time without even realizing that they have overworked, right? So and again there was an opportunity for people to in the earlier times people to go out, spend time with family or spend time with friends and things like that. But I think somewhere that's being lost because people are trying to spend more and more time with work, right? Obviously, we'll have to find ways to deal with it by managing the calendar, to your appointments, create that boundaries between basically temporal and physical boundaries between work and personal life. Right? I think that's important. Another thing which people are finding difficult is to prioritize work. Right? Everything just comes in as an urgent or high priority. I think it's important to set limited number of tasks that you could do so that quality of the work is not suffering. And possibly try to see if we can install distraction or I would say distraction limitation tools, right, which typically are used by I mean, at least personally I've experienced on my own. You can go on your Android phones, you can go to a setting called Zen mode, right, and then you can practically say that I'm not going to be looking at many of the applications when I'm doing the work, right. There are interruptions at home, you have family, you have kids and things like that. So I think it's important to draw some lines, create clear communication, set expectations with the family. I think one of the important issue that we have seen is as more and more people are moving out, towards remote working or moving into remote working and moving out of offices, there's a sense of loneliness which is set both organizations as well as employees to figure out a way so that they are socially engaged, be it online or some way or form of the other, which obviously is a safe way of doing it, but certainly you have to have socially enabled. There are communication issues. People feel that they are left out of a communication loop. I think some of these things can be addressed, right? I mean, these are all can happen through conversation. And one of the biggest challenge as you're working from remote, which is again most of the time ignored, is the whole tech hiccups, right? So you're working from remote, you may have a problem with your broadband, to your laptop, to it could be anything, right? So or maybe a security patch or whatever, right? So I think you would have those challenges, but I think it's important to continue to keep in mind some of these productivity challenges and make sure that you're able to manage the tech hiccups. I think the next important and I would say the most important thing is securing your operations. We are working in an environment where there's excessive, I would say, cyber security threats that are coming in, especially when people are working from home. When you're sitting in an enterprise, in an office, you're more secure. It's a perimeter of security that is in play. But when it comes to people working from remote, there are challenges related to security. They are more prone to phishing attacks, cyber security attacks. It's like leaving a candle in the wind, right? I mean, unless the person is aware what needs to be done, I think from a security perspective, we are practically taking chances, right? So there has to be a very clear strategy around security, securing your operations. I would say there are three key areas that you need to focus on when it comes to security, and especially when you're trying to build seamless operations from a security perspective. One is people. You have to help people understand the importance of security, create communications to the employees, make them aware that what sort of security challenges are there, and continue to monitor high risk users. An enterprise, they are low risk users, there are high risk users. So I think there has to be constant monitoring of high risk users. You need to get in best of technology to make sure that you are able to get the patch of your endpoints, to get the VPN, get real-time alerts onto your machines, get data leakage. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, especially when you're working from remote. Right? Look for shadow IT. I think as people work from remote, there is a bit of a liberty when they're trying to work on various projects. Shadow IT tends to grow. I think it's important to look for shadow IT. And we can, if possible, device virtualization, because again, that's one of the important things that you can focus on as you would want to have a centralized control when it comes to endpoint safety and security. From a processes point of view, I think it's important to think of resiliency as you're working in a remote environment. You need to have remote working tools and IT support to ensure that employees are not inconvenienced. From a security point of view, they are able to report and a remediation can be taken immediately, and they are able to respond immediately if there is a problem. You need to continue to test your DR capabilities, because that's again important when you're working from remote or working in a scenario like this, because you can potentially have a lockdown or an inaccessibility of a facility or a service that can happen. So you need to have a very robust DR to make sure that the business continues to work, right? And you need to have, one of the biggest, I would say, factors here, which is again ignored by many organizations, managing the third-party security. Right? I think most of the organizations today would definitely have third parties working with them. I think that's another area where the organizations have to think through on how do they manage the third-party security. So I think it's not about, as I mentioned, it's not only limited to the creation of experience, consistent experience on security or let's say productivity challenges when we are working from remote. But there are cultural aspects that an organization needs to really think. Right, I think the very idea of remote working wasn't there in the past. People had to quickly go understand, how remote working can continue to make sure that the business is continuing with it. But it's all about the mindset change. So as we were trying to get back to the offices, I think it's important to really embrace the new ways of working. Be it, I would still call it as hybrid working as things get back to normal. I think there's a cultural shift that has to happen. It's about the change management that I was mentioning earlier, right? It's about managing some of the human aspects around combating the isolations, managing the productivity, right? And one important thing is, as employees continue to work from remote, or work from home, the morale levels have to be always kept up. I think one of the biggest lessons that we've learned in last 1 year is the leadership has to have constant communication with their employees, so that they're able to, spend time with, that they're able to spend time with the employees in some shape or the other form online, and keep them motivated. I think one of the biggest, as I said, learning that we have also gained is, employees look up to their leaders, right? When it is in happy situation or crisis situation. So I think it's important for leadership or the leaders of the company to stay in constant touch, write blogs, keep communicating, and post about the strengths of people. Right, I think people have really it's a big change for everyone, right? So I think realizing the talent, realizing the efforts of people, and then putting it up, right? I think we've been really practicing that a lot in our firm, right? We've been talking about what are the strengths that each one of us has, how we have dealt with it, how we have covered the whole journey, who's really contributed. I think it's about the morale boosting that typically happens. I think we've been, as I said, we've been in the forefront of some of these initiatives. We've been finding avenues to to collaborate. There are more knowledge sharing sessions. There are what we call as health and wellness sessions that we've been trying to create for people, so that they are not really feeling left out and things like that. Right? So and we also deployed a enterprise social platform, so that so that people are not really disconnected, right? When they're working from home. So I think some of these important aspects have really changed, or I would say have to be thought when you are looking at a work from home or work from remote. And it's all about creating the frictionless digital experience, right? So while you are saying that you have best of technology from our remote working, best of security from remote working, at the end of the day, it's the human, human angle that needs to be thought. So it's about motivations, it's about culture and things like that. So I think I would say no digital strategy is successful until you have the right human right mindset from a change perspective. So to just stop my presentation, thank you so much for hearing me out and the patient hearing. In case you have any queries, happy to address that. Thank you so much.